February 16th, 2016 for the Des Moines Public Schools to order. Please take the roll.
Ms. Langford? Here. Ms. Ellsburn?
Here.
Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Barron?
Here.
Ms. Caldwell-Johnson?
Here.
Ms. Newcomb?
Here.
Ms. Boson?
Here.
The first item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda? Ms. Caldwell-Johnson?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to move approval of the agenda with one modification, moving item number 3, F3, to be item F1 before the monitoring reports.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from February 2nd, 2016?
Move approval.
Motion by Ms. Caldwell-Johnson, second by Ms. Langford. Please vote. Motion's approved, 7-0. Next item on the agenda is district recognitions. We understand we have none this evening.
Those being recognized were unable to make it, so we've rescheduled that for March 8th.
All right. Well, we look forward to that. Next, I'll move to consent. The next item on our agenda being consent items. We allow any person the opportunity to speak to the board for up to 5 minutes. Following the presentation of an agenda item, if anyone wishes to speak to an agenda item, please go to the information desk to sign up. Remarks must be germane to the agenda, and we ask that you avoid reference to personalities and character attacks, as those types of comments serve no productive purpose. As a reminder to the board and public, the board will not engage in discussion or deliberation with the speaker regarding comments made to agenda items. Discussion and deliberation will remain among board members at the board table, with speakers' comments informing said discussion, deliberation, and determinations as deemed necessary. We appreciate your input. Ms. Anderson, do you have the motion?
Yes, I move that the board approve the consent items in accordance with the recommended action for each item on the consent agenda, including bills previously authorized, certified, and approved for payment by the board secretary in the amount of $5,993,792.70.
Fantastic.
Second.
There we go. Motion by Ms. Anderson, second by Ms. Caldwell-Johnson. Please vote.
Okay, got that done.
Motion passes 7-0. Next item on our agenda is newly renamed item F1, East High School Multipurpose and
hearing.
Community.
Public hearing.
Oh, sorry, you're right. I am going too fast. Appreciate that. So the next item on our agenda is E1, public hearing for student drop-off at Wright Elementary School. Public hearing will come to order. Is there anyone wishing to speak to item E1, public hearing for student drop-off at Wright Elementary School? Hearing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Dr. Ahart, would you please introduce the matter?
I recommend the board review and approve the proposed plans and specifications prepared by Bishop Engineering for student drop-off at Wright Elementary School following the public hearing.
May I have a motion and a second to approve?
Move approval.
I second.
Motion by Ms. Boson, second by Ms. Anderson. Do we have a presentation? Nope. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Now we can move to item F1, which is our East High School Multipurpose and Community Use Facility. There's no action on this item, but there is a presentation, and we do have one request to address the board. So I'll ask Supervisor Tom Hawkinsmith to come to the dais. Right up there, sir. Please state your name and address.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Tom Hawkinsmith. I'm a member of the Polk County Board of Supervisors. I also represent the area, most of the area of the East High School boundaries. I have some of Lincoln and a lot of North High School also, but I am an East High grad. Most of you are probably aware Polk County has partnered with East High School as well as other high schools in the Des Moines district multiple times with financial resources to support the school district in a number of facility improvements, and specifically East High School. I don't want to go through all of them tonight, but just off the top of my head, you know, the new surface at the football stadium, the Bob Savage Plaza, the initial expansion that was done to the school probably back in 2005. The county participated in all those projects, and we were glad to be a partner in those projects. Tonight, I come before you to encourage your support of the project on your agenda tonight. That includes the multipurpose / community facility on Walker Street. I think it is much needed. We've talked with staff at East High School on multiple occasions about the need for this facility, and I just think it's a great project, everything that I've learned about it in the last few months, and I would encourage you from a community standpoint as well as a school district standpoint to support this project.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a presentation.
What's wrong with Bill?
He just had knee surgery. You've probably noticed that it appears that I've aged significantly since the last time I was here. Yeah.
Do you want to just wheel the chair back to the audience after you're done? That's fine.
Yes. I've had all the static I need from my wife, I tell you, so, and the superintendent, I might say. Well, good evening, Board. We're here tonight to talk about a number of things, but very specifically the East High multipurpose facility and a series of moves that are related directly to that that project. You probably know, but if not, the project in itself was a current planned project in our year 2 statewide facilities, statewide penny plan. And just thought that going through some of the issues associated with it might be helpful to you, as again, one step really leads to another. And at this particular time, I'd like to introduce Leslie Morris. For those of you that have not met Leslie, she is the fantastic new principal at East High School that we're very glad is here. So, Leslie, if you could start. I'm going to slide over here a little bit. Would you grab the keyboard? Oh. She's also my right-handed person tonight.
Good evening. I am Leslie Morris. I'm the very proud principal at East High School, and I thank you very much for taking your time this evening to meet with us and let us present our plan for the Walker Building. I do have 2 special guests with me, and they are coaches, so I'd like to introduce them first. Actually, I have 3 now.
I'm James Jabu. I teach biology at East. I'm also the head wrestling coach. I coach football, and I also help with the baseball program.
Hi, everyone. My name is Thana Heller. I work in special education at East, and I am also the head softball coach and a lower level basketball coach at East.
My name is Zach Hammond. I'm the special education teacher at East High School. I'm the assistant wrestling coach there as well.
All right.
I wanted you to meet them because they're wonderful, and they do wonderful things for our children at East High School. We all know that to engage children in a positive way really assists them not to engage in a negative way, and these coaches that you just met spend many, many hours with our children at East High in a very positive way, and I very much appreciate everything that they do.
Well, to begin with, the current conditions for East High School wrestling, as an example, is not representative of what our students deserve in our school district. They have a number of needs, but we're focusing on the needs of baseball, softball, golf, and soccer. As I said earlier, one change really does lead to another, and we believe that we can accomplish this all for less dollars. As with all projects, we continue to look at efficiencies, and something like this where we can reduce our total outlay helps us cover those that have exceeded our estimates. I know you're familiar with, for instance, the Van Meter project, and we really optimized what we did at Van Meter, but that came at a cost above our estimates. So this, from a financial standpoint, really helps us.
If you'll take a look at the pictures, you're going to look at that picture and say, oh, that's not a representation, a good representation of Des Moines Public Schools. Our mats are in pretty bad shape, although my coaches do not complain. I have been down many times to look at them. And as you know, with wrestling, you're always concerned not only with safety, but also the medical end of it, staph infections, ringworm. There's a variety of things that you need to consider. And the new mats, of course, have a microfilm on them that will assist with that type of concern, medical concern, and mine are in pretty bad shape. If you look at the following slide, you're going to take a look at columns. Very concerning, again, for those columns to be in that area. Children are wrestling and they, have a takedown and they go into the pole. Probably not a very good thing. We're always very concerned with concussions, and so that would be another concern that I have. Very limited space, although the wrestling coaches have been wise in that they use the cafeteria as well as the gym when they're available, because we have a lot of feeder programs, and we want our middle school kids and our elementary kids to be involved with our wrestling and our softball and our baseball program and our feeder programs, and therefore we're using all the facilities that we can, but the space is very, very limited for storage. One of the things when I met with Bill about was if this proposal went through, what would I do with the existing facility? And I think we're all really wellness oriented. And what we want to do is a flex and fit room, and that flex and fit room would be not only for kids during the day, but I would love to see the faculty use that after school. In addition, we have cheerleaders that do tumbling, and when I watch them practice and they do their back handsprings, I'm always worried about them working on the wooden floors learning those tumbling stunts. So it'd be wonderful to be able to use the existing facility we have for basic tumbling needs. So the cheerleaders could also use that area. PE, as you know, the requirements of PE. Right now we are pretty packed in our PE facilities. And we also received a brand new, thanks to you all and Mr. Good, that we have a brand new basketball floor. And it always worries me that I have lots of PE classes on those basketball floors. It's hard on the new paint. So if we would have this area, they could have another area to go to other than the main gym.
We looked at a number of options on the East High campus, and we kept coming back to Walker Street. The relationship to the current building was as close as we could get. And so though we evaluated other places and sites on the campus, the Walker building became the best option to us. Mm-hmm. And we'll show you later, but the needs that we've talked about can be accommodated, and we'll show you that visually a little bit later. Currently at the Walker Street, we have a district-wide programming, which is special ed, and we believe that they can still do their great work at another location. And so they would be, we're going to suggest that they be moved to a district-wide facility. And then one more thing, and thinking of students first, is we've had a great connection with the Boys and Girls Club. And we believe that through an expansion of our partnership with the Boys and Girls Club, that we can serve many more kids. And they will tell you more about that in a little bit. I have met with the neighborhood organizations, some representatives of the neighborhood, and they're all very supportive of this. And we're in on the early discussions on citing a location for this multi-purpose space. Do you want to do this, or do you want me to?
We can do it together.
Okay.
You start.
Okay. This is the second floor at Walker Street. And again, this is very rough, but as you can see, we can get three full-size mats on that second floor. We do have some walls that need to be removed, but this would create 200% better conditions for our students, at least. There would be some small locker areas for changing and a coach's office here with good view of the wrestling area. Also, we can accommodate baseball, softball, soccer, and golf through netting of another large area of the second floor, which is on the right here. These walls in the middle would come out, and we would have a series of nets that would be movable for each of those functions. Anything else you'd like to add to that?
It's just really important if you look at the hitting facility in particular. When I met with the coaches earlier about that, sometimes we had one bill that was over $800 for the kids to go hit at another facility. And if we're looking at cultural proficiency, and I know, Dr. Ehart, that's your message, that's your vision for principals, children can't afford that. And we need to make sure that all children have access to these facilities and that we build our feeder programs. And this is a wonderful way of doing that. We have the building, it's right there with the Boys and Girls Club, with the stadium across the street. I just really hope that you'll look at this to be a project that you can pursue.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Jody Worth, who is I think she's the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club. There's some acronym there, I'm sure, but she'll correct me if I'm wrong. But she's going to speak a little bit, and others, I believe, about the potential plans here and how it could impact kids.
Absolutely. We're very, very excited. Thank you for having me tonight. So, like Bill said, I am the CEO of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Iowa. We've been partners with the Des Moines Public Schools for a very long time. But to give you a quick glimpse at what we do every day, we provide safe, supportive areas for kids in out-of-school time. We currently have 5 sites throughout the city. 4 of those 5 sites are located in DMPS buildings, so we use the facilities to our fullest advantage from school day to well into the evening with use of our facilities. We connect highly educated, highly trained staff with our students, and what we do is we seamlessly transition from the school day to our club time, especially for those facilities that are located in DMPS buildings. So we're able to make this just even a better, richer facility. So the proposed site, the Walker site, will allow us to move our administrative offices there and deepen our partnership with the school district, as well as potentially open a teen site there, which only will go hand in hand with the amazing work that East High is doing. I foresee that we could wrap in all of the wrestlers and all of the athletes, feed them dinner before they go home, and help them with homework through academic support labs and what have you. So when we talk about the benefits to the partnership, I know I touched on it briefly, but continuing students' education beyond the school day. We know that in order for us to get our kids up to speed, in order for them to be on grade level, we need to have that school day extended a bit. And the Boys and Girls Clubs offer a brilliant opportunity for that to happen. We offer that opportunity to change the opportunity equation for our children, especially our children that live in the most impoverished neighborhoods of our city. Making efficient and effective use of the facilities, certainly Dr. Ehart hard as a big proponent, as is Bill. If your facilities are sitting empty, we can serve kids there. We can do it. We do it beautifully. And if we can wrap our arms around those kids in after school time, they're better for it, we're better for it, and as a school district, we'll only see the benefits of their additional educational time. Staff work hand in hand with administration to provide comprehensive support for our students. A beautiful example of this is at our Baker site, which is at Amos Hyatt Middle School. And many times when Dr. Chapman has a struggle with a child, she'll reach out to my staff who are on site and work full time, and reach out and say, do you know this particular child? I think they're a club kid. And then we're able to connect with that child, maybe de-escalate the situation, because we have a different, unique relationship with them. We're able to spend some additional time that our teachers don't have, our administrators don't have. And so we're able to work together as a partner to bring down that situation. We provide social and emotional learning opportunities. The children that we serve, they're struggling, and providing those social and emotional opportunities to grow as individuals in time, in out of school time that is safe and with caring, supportive adults only makes them better students and better citizens in the long haul. And we prevent summer learning loss. The Boys and Girls Clubs of America has a research-based program called Summer Brain Gain, and we have found it's made tremendous progress in almost halting the loss, but actually gaining some back too. So it's been phenomenal, and that will roll out through all of our sites this summer program. So then when we talk to what it means to our students, I mean, I think some of this is so very, you're very self-aware of all of this, obviously, with your passion with the school district, your passion with the students that we serve and the needs of this community. But certainly not all of our students have a safe, supporting place to go after school. And if they can come and hang out with us, then they are not doing something that's going to get them in trouble. And so if that's all we do, it's a win-win, but there's much more that comes with that. Carrying highly educated adult role models. My staff all have college degrees, period. They have to. Education is a way out of poverty, and we can wrap our arms around those kids and help them move forward with whatever challenges they have. Seamless transition, as I spoke before. So oftentimes teachers will say, little Johnny has these 5 things to do in math, and they come over to club and we get them done, because we know when we send homework home or we send the assignments home, sometimes they don't get done. We read with children, we work with children, they get on computers and iPads, and they're able to do a lot of additional things outside of the school day at club. We help bridge the achievement gap for our students of color and English language learners. There's not enough time to get them up to speed in a school day. There just isn't, our English language learners. So we take that, we deliberately hire folks that are bilingual and culturally proficient, and we help and we move and we support and we lead. And we help make sure that they're more stable as they come back to you that next school day. And lastly, we provide our laser focus on good character and citizenship principles. We have to break the cycle of poverty, and we do so by teaching our children to give back, teaching them that it is just, if not more beneficial to give than it is to receive. And we have deliberate programs from our national office that do that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Greg Cushing. I'm a board member with Boys and Girls Club of Central Iowa, and I'd like to echo Jody's comments and to thank the Des Moines Public Schools and Bill Good and Dr. Earhart for their support for Boys and Girls Club and the wonderful partnership we have throughout the city. In particular, over the last couple of years, as we have worked with Mr. Earhart and Bill Good and Allison Vukovic and the entire DMPS team to study opportunities for growth and better ways to serve more kids throughout our community. So I just wanted to spend a few moments sharing with you where BGCCI is at today throughout the community, and then our plans for the next 5 years, and show you where the Walker Street Club fits into our overall plan. So looking at BGCCI by the numbers here on this slide, you can see where our existing 5 clubs are at, and what we've learned since we opened the Levitt Club, which is at George Washington Carver in 2007, is that ideally our clubs are about 3,000 to 4,000 square feet in size of dedicated space. And then the real beauty, I think, of our partnership is when we can utilize spaces like gyms and cafeterias and science rooms and art rooms and music rooms to really expand our programming in times that maybe those spaces would otherwise be idle. So that has been the real beauty for us. And then if you go to the next slide, Bill, you can kind of see how our clubs lay out in the community today. And you can see that we don't always have opportunities at all grade levels for all of our students. And in particular, we have a real gap at the high school level. So nationally, Boys and Girls Club is aware of this, and they're making a very strong push to push for teen clubs throughout the nation, and they're really supporting us in our efforts to do that here in Des Moines. So if you go to slide 3, you can kind of see what we've done strategically to address this is developed a club pathways plan to grow and support some of our existing clubs and to explore new club opportunities so that we can complete multiple paths throughout the city. And what we want to be able to do is offer students and their families a way to progress from their elementary school club to middle school and then on to high school with Boys and Girls Club by their side along the way. So you'll see our plan here over the next 5 years is to hopefully complete 2 to 3 paths in the next 5 years, and then be well suited then in the next 10 to hopefully open an additional 1 to 2 club pathways. So I'm going to kind of work from right to left just to kind of quickly run you through some of the key highlights where we have clubs today. On the south side, McCombs Middle School, we're currently operating out of basically an 8x10 storage closet there. We've got about 85 students that come, and thankfully we've got a great staff relationship. We utilize a lot of the shared spaces in that facility. But on the Des Moines Schools 5-year construction plan, there is an addition and renovation project scheduled. And so we're hoping to work with Bill and Nancy Croy to be a part of that project and hopefully gain, again, somewhere in the 3,000 to 4,000 square foot range of dedicated space to serve even more kids and do even a better job on the south side. Additionally, there are a couple of elementary schools on the south side that that are part of the 5-year construction plan. So we want to explore the opportunity to develop an elementary school club that would feed into McCombs. So that's the south side. On the west side, we just this year opened the Ross Club at Moore Elementary School. Moore is currently a 2-section school. Eventually it'll go to 3. We're in one of the classrooms that maybe eventually would get pushed out as they go to 3. So we want to explore the opportunity for a dedicated club space at Moore. And then we also want to look at middle school and high school opportunities on the west side. And then finally, the main reason why we're here tonight is the East Path and Walker Street. We have 2 great facilities in the East Path currently at the Levitt Club at George Washington Carver, and then the Baker Club at Amos Hyatt. And we'd like to give the students that follow that path a way to have that high school experience with the Boys and Girls Club. So all in all, our 5-year plan is hopefully to be able to double the number of students that are members of our clubs, and hopefully double our average daily attendance to over 1,000 students today. To over 1,000 students that attend the clubs each day. And then finally, Walker Street. If you can go to the last slide. Thank you, Bill. Walker Street is just a wonderful opportunity for us. We have been, as Bill mentioned, looking for possibilities to serve clubs at East High School for a number of years and explored 4 or 5 great opportunities. The students here at Central Campus did a great project where they looked at this opportunity. But long story short, this building is just, I think, the best suited opportunity for us. It's immediately very close to East High School. The first floor plan that you see here works out extremely well for us. As we did a space fit here, we couldn't ask for a better opportunity, being near the doorway, the vestibule that you see in the center there. Our offices fit really nice in the upper right-hand corner in the current configuration that you see there. You'll see a community training board meeting room that's just off the vestibule, a great way to maybe open up the building to community partners. And then a couple of shared spaces with East High School, some ASL technology labs, and then you see the potential there for a teen center. The exciting thing for us on the teen center side is that's a blank slate. We see a great opportunity to work with community and neighborhood leaders and partners, of course, East High staff, our staff, but most importantly, the students that are maybe currently at Amos Hyatt at our Baker Club that will eventually feed into this facility to really design a really unique and incredible opportunity for this teen center. So we really are looking forward to that. And then, as Jody mentioned, the second thing is the opportunity to move our administrative offices to a central location. We're currently in lease space in West Des Moines. This gets us so much closer to all of our clubs. It allows us to run our Feeding the Future program in a more central location. We send home bags of food with our families to sustain them every weekend, and then on once a month we throw in personal hygiene items. So great place for us to be able to run this program. And then finally, we've always wanted to have our administrative offices in a teen club to help foster and nurture the development of that teen program. So this is just a tremendous opportunity for us. We can't thank you enough for thinking of us for this opportunity, and we look forward to strengthening and enhancing our partnership as we begin to implement some of these club pathway projects in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
We would also be sharing space. We will maintain our little Scarlets there, which is very important, which is our childcare. The other thing is that we right now have a food bank that's located in the school. We've had over 300 children through that in 3 weeks. So it's a real need. We would like to have a small food bank, an auxiliary type food bank in that area also, so kids can take food home. And then the last thing is the technology that we have, we can share those labs. And that will give our kids access to computers after hours, which I think is vitally important.
As the dominoes continue to fall, there are other related moves that we wanted to bring to your attention. And one of them was that we've talked about the last few years is we have a welcome center that's serving a great purpose for our new families, but it's not probably the best first impression of our school district. And we want to be sure that we're welcoming those families in a very appropriate, high-quality way. So the Welcome Center would move, and we'll talk about where in a little bit, but that space, because there is a food and nutrition freezer right next door, this is the food and nutrition freezer here, that they would just utilize that space for additional storage purposes. With the advent of breakfast in the classrooms and other programs that they've had, the need for storage is greater. So they welcome having that at this site also. We also currently have leased classrooms at the Pace Building, which is downtown at 620 8th Street. And currently, the district pays in lease costs $15,000 per year, and those are all general fund dollars. And what we're proposing is that those classrooms are all moved to man, which would be an improved classroom environment for them. And they would be located in the same buildings as 3 other alternative programs, which are scheduled for man once it's renovated, which is currently underway. We are proposing that we add to our building inventory with the 2100 Fleur. This is a building that was previously occupied by the Merchants Bonding Company, originally constructed in 1990 with additions in 1995. 36,000 plus square feet with 132 parking stalls, and it is protected by the flood levee, for those of you who may know where that building is. The building was originally on the market for $4,450,000, and we asked for an appraisal to be done, and that came back at $3,670,000. And after considerable negotiations, we agreed to the potential purchase for $3,150,000. Might add that negotiated purchase price also includes about $125,000 in furniture, cubicles, and equipment also. Some of the potential timelines, I knew that someone would ask. These are potential timelines. They are aggressive, but we'll come to the board at the March 8th meeting with that potential purchase of 2100 Fleur. Next step would be doing some work at Fleur, though it's very minimal. It's a great building. Very little work is going to be necessary. The main thing is getting it technology ready. For instance, the current owner had CenturyLink there, and we need to go out to Fleur and pick up our internet connections and use our local area network in that building. On May 9th, move the district-wide special ed programs to the second floor at 2323. I'm sorry, on May 1st, we would move the second floor occupants at 2323 to 2100 Fleur. The next move would be move from Walker Street the district-wide SPED staff. And middle of May, move the Office of Innovation from Prospect currently to 2100. That's going to have great value to us to improve collaboration and services to our students. It's going to bring staff together that are currently miles apart. At the end of May, we would move athletics, activities, community education, Metro Kids, who were originally scheduled for MAN. I know this is getting confusing, but they were originally scheduled for MAN, and to allow space for the PACE classrooms, we needed to find another place for them. So they would go to 2100. In June, we would look at starting the second floor renovations for the multi-purpose space at Walker Street. And in July, we would move the PACE classrooms to MAN, pending on when that completion date is. And then in August, the Boys and Girls Club offices would move to the first floor at Walker Street. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Ahart, who might summarize and kind of bring this all together. It's kind of a massive thought process, and I know I've used the term dominoes probably too much, but one thing really does lead to another. But in this particular case, it's going to lead to something better.
Right. If you would take a look at an attempt at a visual that helps clarify all of this, which looks like maybe something you would see on a weather map. But everything does fit together here. What I would really like to emphasize most is two things. Number one, improving opportunities for kids and improving learning spaces for kids. The East case, I think, has been made very well by the Boys and Girls Club team as well as Leslie. But the students that would be moving from the current PACE facility that we lease to MAN will have much bigger spaces, much better lit spaces, and as well as the other programs that will end up at MAN that aren't directly related to this Walker Street project. And maybe most importantly, creating better opportunities for collaboration for district-wide staff. We've done a number of things over the last few years, removing the district from outside leases, which essentially takes general fund dollars and puts them into another organization so that we have space. We've been systematically reducing those, which keeps more of our general fund dollars within DMPS, and at the same time, putting our people and our students in space that we own so that we have control over, which we also tend to run more efficiently. Putting the Office of Innovation team together with schools and academics and the Welcome Center and the entire Learning Services team, which includes community partnerships and student activities, really will enable a much tighter collaboration among all of those departments. This education business is first about people and secondly about collaboration. We'll be able to do a much more effective job of connecting the dots in a timely fashion. And as far as the Welcome Center goes, having a more appealing and positive first experience for those, especially those families new to the district, but also giving them immediate access to the entire district rather than just a small handful of people who are processing their initial paperwork and then having to pull in support as needed on various timelines. We'll have more immediate and better ability to provide just-in-time support because all of those folks will be located in the same location. The Mann facility, which I know we had talked about, I'm not sure when it was that we brought that forward, and I'm surprised Bill hasn't mentioned this. The Mann project, as well as the East project, if we move forward this way, also lets us get rid of how many more mobile classrooms?
8 classrooms.
8 classrooms where we're currently serving students. It gets those sort of safety hazards and just really inadequate quality spaces out of our inventory. And with the Mann facility, which really is exciting, is we will have 4 different programs located there, student programs that 3 years ago were located at various parts of the city. We can supervise and provide much better support when we have those consolidated on one site. Not to mention bringing that Mann facility back online instead of an empty building sitting there, not being utilized and falling into disrepair. So it is a lot of moving pieces, but I can tell you that Bill, me too, but more so Bill, have invested a lot of time, and this is not what we had imagined when this process started. But it actually helps us accomplish more goals than we were originally trying to accomplish, all at a cost savings to the original five-year plan that was established 2 years ago. So I would like to salute the Boys and Girls Club team for sticking with us through. We looked at all sorts of different options, I have to tell you, and representatives of the East High, or not East High, but the East neighborhood associations, those 3 neighborhood associations contiguous to East, have been involved in these discussions, and Bill for just sticking with it and continuing to explore different options to solve a number of ongoing, not really issues, but annoyances. Long-term, this saves us money in the 5-year statewide penny plan, but it also helps us realize savings ongoing through savings and leases. So I couldn't be more pleased with how all of this came together, and hope that we can execute this and have a lot of people in new places and better places and serve kids better starting next fall.
Well, this is telling you, well, that's what Tom said, it's the wins. There's a lot of wins associated with this, and at this point, we'd like to entertain any questions, comments that you have for not only East High School, but the Boys and Girls Club, Dr. Ahart, or myself, that we might help you with.
I'll open it up for questions. I'll note that we have 2 monitoring reports to follow in an exempt session, so I'll ask people to be as brief as possible.
I just have one question.
Ms. Anderson?
In the Mann facility, you do have some programming there right now, right?
Actually, there's no programming there now, except in mobile classrooms.
Okay, so where is like Focus and the other?
Focus and Children and Families of Iowa programs will be on the second floor of Mann, and Turning Points program will be in the southwest corner of the first floor, which is really sort of an annex to the building. And then the first floor, the main first floor would be the PACE programs.
I
Oh,
thought,
they're-
yeah, I mean,
the-
I thought Focus was moved and area was created for that program in another building, and I was just wondering if it was
The,
Mann,
the,
so I
the
didn't-
focus program is the high school focus program. There's also a middle school focus program, which is
Okay.
located at Hoyt.
Okay, so that's still there, and so
yeah.
this is, okay, I get it. Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Ms. Caldwell-Johnson.
Thank you, and thanks for the presentation, very helpful. I did have a couple of questions regarding cost and finances. So as I see, we're actually acquiring a building for $3.1 million, and that was not originally included in our 5-year plan, Schools First plan, right?
No, actually, multi-purpose community building was in our 5-year plan.
Right, so the multi-purpose wrestling facility at East was in the plan?
Yes.
Right, but the acquisition of the floor site would never have been included in a plan, so that's something new.
Correct.
So is there something included in our Schools First plan that we are not going to do to create the revenue necessary to make that acquisition, or help me understand sort of where the money's coming from? I'm just need to
Sure.
try to follow the dollars.
Absolutely not. I know Tom hears me say it, but we're going to do everything that we said we were going to do, or bill goods out of here. So we are going to fulfill our plan and do everything on that plan that we said we were going to do.
Okay.
And as far as the financials of that, we originally had $5 million budgeted or estimated because we thought we were going to have to build a new building. And so you'd subtract the 3.1 approximately, and there'll be improvements at the Walker Street building on the second floor for East High School that I would see that we'll save over $1 million over what we had originally estimated,
Okay.
to help offset some of those other things like Van Meter that I'd mentioned and
Sure.
the
Maybe
pluses and minuses.
Maybe offline you can walk me through the math, so.
Happy to.
And my other question goes to the Boys and Girls Club component of the East High project and what the cost associated with rent and other support for their part of the building will be, and how functionally we make that work.
Yes, we do charge a rental fee to the Boys and Girls Club, much like we do at any of the other Boys and Girls Club. It's the same fee, which helps offset operational costs of those buildings. So any improvements on the first floor that they may do for the teen center would basically be on their dime and be part of their capital campaign.
Okay.
And I don't know if Jody or somebody wants to expand upon that, how those dollars or where those dollars are going to come from.
Currently, the Boys and Girls Clubs are engaged in a feasibility study to determine what our capital campaign or potential capital campaign will look like. But all of those remodeling dollars that we would put into Walker Street to turn it into a phenomenal teen center would come from that campaign, or we would borrow for that or pull it from our reserves to get that up and going. But as far as any of the improvements to the main part of that building would definitely be on our dime. We do pay rent or lease rate, and we also pay some utilities as well for our spaces.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Partially, yes, thank you. I'll follow up with you, thanks.
Great. I'd be happy to explain that further.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions. Anything further? Okay. Thank you for the presentation.
Yep, thank you.
We'll move on to our first monitoring report of the evening, which is 4.1.1 student achievement, which covers In this case, for those of you following at home, the arts, financial and economic literacy, and technological and information literacy. Our presenters are coming up. If I could have a motion and a second to approve item F1.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Bozen, second by Ms. Ellsburn. I'll turn it over to our presenters.
Good evening, Board. My name is Noelle Tickey. I'm Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, and I have two of my colleagues here with me. To my left is Sarah Doherty. She's our Visual Arts Coordinator and also our coordinator of our Turnaround Arts Program. And to my right is Ryan Rowley. He heads up our Performing Arts Program across the district.
So we'll be working through these board ends, students demonstrating proficiency and understanding of rigorous core curriculum, financial and economic literacy, understanding of the value of fine and performing arts in society, and that students demonstrate proficiency in technological and information literacy. We've developed these key performance indicators in these areas: student participation in the arts over time, grade distributions for middle school business courses, participation in grade distributions for high school financial literacy courses, and enrollment in our Project Lead the Way courses over time. We're going to provide some context for you for these programs and specific academic content areas. First, our performing arts. We have been increasing enrollment in our music programs over the last 3 years by removing some barriers, particularly early access to instruments, providing middle school students with opportunities for beginning lessons, and increasing enrollment of all minority students. General music is available for all students K through 5, and small group instruction begins in 4th grade with orchestra and in 5th grade with band. In arts integration and our turnaround arts programming, because our arts integration lives beyond just those schools on the north side. Turnaround Arts specifically serves 5 schools in the North Feeder pattern. Those would be Findlay, that was the original pilot school. And last year we brought on Cattell, Oak Park, Madison, and those all feed into Harding Middle School. The work there is centered around ambitious arts integrated strategies aligned with the instructional framework. In those buildings, we're working with the adults to use the arts as primary pathways to core learning. We've been strategically leveraging arts assets for school improvement efforts. Schools identify key areas of need in both academics and in community support and student engagement, and the work there leverages those arts assets against those needs. We also have developed a deep Kennedy Center partnership with Des Moines Performing Arts, and the work we've been doing with Des Moines Performing Arts has actually become a model for partnerships across the country. Ryan's going to be going to DC and kind of representing us, and people will be learning from us and what we're doing with our partnership. The visual arts serve all students K through 6. We've examined some equity of access issues in grades 7 and 8 over the last few years, and with work with building administration and in partnership with Office of Schools, we've been able to increase our enrollment in 7th and 8th grade by about 550 students. It's about the size of an entire middle school that we've been able to re-engage with arts in 7th and 8th grade, and that really allows us to maintain some vertical pathways of learning and keeping kids engaged right from kindergarten all the way up through those advanced academic courses at the end of high school. That represents 8.5% improvement over a few years. We have a rich course offering in our high schools. We have the distinction of being the only district in the state to offer AP Art History, and we've been supporting that. Next year, we'll be offering Intro to Art History to help kids prepare and be successful in that AP course. And I would be remiss if I didn't plug the annual District Art Show, which is on Thursday. We've increased student participation by 270% in the last few years. We'll be showing the work of over 700 students on Thursday night. And it's one of the premier events for our arts programming, and it's one of the only events in the district that provides opportunities for every school and every grade level. We have a wide variety of technology courses offered. We're really trying to prepare students for a future that is hard for us as adults to imagine, things that exist now that certainly didn't even exist 5 years ago. And so we've been really responsive to the kinds of course offerings and academic structures we've been able to put in place for our students to meet those needs and to try to look forward. One example of that is every high school now has 3D printing capabilities. And those are the kinds of things that we're looking forward to and trying to develop and understand better so that we can prepare kids for whatever that future might hold and vocational and future study opportunities in technology. One of the ways we can really illustrate that is through our Project Lead the Way program. High-tech environment, skilled instructors, and hands-on learning in engineering. Some of the courses are in digital electronics, which obviously I think probably all of us have sitting next to us right now. And we know that our kids will need some definite training and learning in to be part of that digital revolution that continues to happen. Civil engineering and architecture, computer science and software engineering, and engineering development and design, all key areas of learning that are going to prepare our kids for that future. We've been working on our access to technology. We know that technology for our students is a great equalizer, an opportunity to access things that aren't always at our fingertips. So some of the things that have been happening, new installations of 2,100 Epson projectors district-wide. It allows that blended learning environment to happen. It allows teachers to have access to all sorts of digital programs and platforms right at their fingertips and at the fingertips of their students, which goes beyond just using technology to integrating technology into learning. Those collaborations among teaching and learning and facilities and technology departments have made that really an integrated experience so that all parties and stakeholders there have a say in kind of how that technology gets integrated into student learning. An addition of 7 student computers per classroom in each elementary, that's putting us at a current ratio of 3-to-1 in elementary and 2-to-1 in secondary. Noelle's going to share some data with us.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. I'm going to go through the actual KPIs for this report. Just a reminder that this is the first version of this report, so we didn't previously have KPIs established. So we've taken a stab at it of what we feel is relevant and aligns to the board end. So we're looking forward to your feedback on, are these the right ones? Looking at our first KPI, which is student participation in the arts over time, we're looking at our vocal music enrollment. And here, over the past 3 years, enrollment in performing music has increased dramatically from 5,716 students in 12-13, spiking to 12,766 students in 15-16. So we're really proud of this data point. And I would commend Ryan and his colleagues. They've taken some very specific steps. They've allowed staff to specialize so that we're not spreading our music teachers as thin. That allows them more time for recruiting. We've removed some financial barriers for our students. One of our biggest challenges now is continuing to get instruments that are usable, and where do we store them? So that's a really good challenge, but one that this data is now creating challenges in other areas. We've specifically removed barriers for ELL and special education, so you'll see some data later on in the subgroups that we're really reaping the benefits of that. And Ryan has put a lot of efforts, and the teachers have put a lot of efforts into recruiting students at a younger age, attracting them to the arts earlier, not waiting until middle school and high school. There we go. The next KPI, or within the same KPI, I'm sorry, is instrumental music enrollment. So we've broken this one down into vocal, band, and orchestra. And this one, enrollment in instrumental music, which includes both band and orchestra, has increased dramatically from 3,893 students in 2012-13 to 5,653 students in 2015-16. We have also articulated projections for next year, and we're hoping that that enrollment reaches 5,900 students. Our visual arts enrollment, again, you can see dramatic increases from 2012-13 to 2015-16. We are hoping that our projections for next year actually stay steady. We've experienced a few cuts in this area due to some budget restrictions, and so we're hoping to continue to maintain enrollments even though we have fewer teachers serving in this area. Looking at the next section, the next KPI around switching gears from the arts to technology and financial literacy, we've decided to pull middle school business grade distribution. This is really, standards reference grading has allowed us to use grades as a way to meaningfully monitor student achievement because all of our grades are tied to academic standards. So most students enroll in a business course each year in grades 6 through 8. The following topics are addressed in each course. So in 6th and 7th grade, we address computer applications, digital citizenship, keyboarding and technology operations. 8th grade is computer programming, financial literacy, career exploration, and digital citizenship. So in 6th grade, business, 94% of our students completed the course with an A, B, or C grade. 7th grade, we're at 88% of our students with an A, B, or C. And in 8th grade, we're at 87% of our students with an A, B, or C. We've even added just the reminder, the A with the H next to it is the designation of honors. So that's where we have our embedded honors for students who exceed standard. That's our way to recognize that they've exceeded our expectations. Our projections for 16-17 for middle school business would be 96% of 6th graders in those top 3 categories, 90% of 7th graders, and 90% of 8th graders will earn an A, B, or C by the end of the course. Health and financial literacy, beginning with the class of 2017, all students must complete coursework in financial literacy, health literacy, technology literacy, and employability skills, and that's a state requirement that we're happy to fulfill. In the fall of 2015, there were 794 students enrolled in financial literacy, and 77% of the students completed the course with a grade of an A, B, or C. So our projections for 16-17 will be that 850 students will enroll in financial literacy, and this is just a snapshot in time. So this, obviously, all of our students are required to take the course over their 4 years of high school. And 80% of students will complete the course with an A, B, or C. We're very excited about our project Lead the Way, and we actually have 2 students that we're going to showcase tonight. But when Project Lead the Way began several years ago with 1 classroom of students at Roosevelt, it has since grown to every comprehensive high school and offering the first 2 levels of the program, which is Intro to Engineering and Principles of Engineering. And then Central Campus has offered 4 additional higher level courses so that students can continue in that pathway for engineering. Over the 3 years, the overall enrollment has increased from 205 students to 2,486 students, so a significant increase. We would like to see that enrollment grow to at least 3,000 students for next year. And then additionally, for each KPI, the board has requested to see a demographic breakdown of each one. And so the support data is those same KPIs broken down by demographic. For our vocal, going back to vocal, you can see the enrollment breakdown by subgroup. And we experienced the greatest gains in our Asian population, our Hispanic and Latino population, and our ELLs. Our ELL population grew by over 800%. So we're really proud of that, and the efforts that we discussed earlier are paying off. For orchestra, you can see the demographic breakdown of participation. Our greatest gains in participation came in our African American subgroup, as well, again, as our ELL subgroup. For band, again, you can see how the participation is broken down by subgroup. Again, the greatest gains we've seen are in our African American population as well as our ELL population. So our ELL population across the board experienced significant gains in participation. Visual arts, you can see a breakdown of participation in visual arts. We're really proud of our African American engagement in this, and then obviously our largest population, as you can see, are white students. Middle school business, again, the grade distribution broken down, and we've taken 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade separately so that you can see what the grade distribution breakdown is by subgroup. In 6th grade, about 77% of our Hispanic population is scoring an A or a B, so our Hispanic population and our white population are our highest performers in the area of 6th grade business. 7th grade business, our multiracial population and our white population have the highest percentage of A's and B's. And 8th grade, our Asian population and our white population have the highest distribution of A's and B's. High school financial literacy, data by subgroup. And again, a reminder, the AH indicates that the students have completed that course with honors designation. Our highest performers in high school financial literacy are our Hispanic and our white students. The F/IE is an indication that the student has failed the course due to insufficient evidence, not because they haven't necessarily mastered the content. We just don't know. They haven't submitted the work to show that they've mastered the content. So in that case, that does sometimes fluctuate. We give students multiple opportunities. So if a student would come in and submit the evidence of learning, that would be changed. So that's what that F/IE stands for. Project Lead the Way, enrollment by subgroup. We've seen the greatest gains in enrollment with our Hispanic students as well as our white students, as well as our free and reduced lunch category. And as I said earlier, we're actually going to feature a couple of our students, Project Lead the Way students, so that you can get an idea of the kinds of things that they're working on in those courses. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Sarah.
So our response to this data, access to technology. We're working on, we're in the RFP phase of implementing a learning management system, a one-stop shop for digital resources for teachers, students, and stakeholders who need access to those resources. All of that is in the efforts to support truly blended integrated learning environments. Project Lead the Way, as Noelle mentioned, really not only expanding enrollment into those courses, but expanding advanced courses in those specialized areas. I'm going to queue up Adi now to introduce our students who are here to talk to us a little bit about their experience with Project Lead the Way.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Noelle. Dr. Ahart, always a pleasure to get a phone call from Noelle to showcase our students. But before I do that, just a public comment on the data for re-engagement with the arts. Members of the board, I have the great privilege to serve on the executive committee for the Iowa High School State Speech Association. And in that role, all across the great state of Iowa, the topic of what you are doing to re-engage in the arts is a model of excellence that is being discussed statewide, and the data proves it. As a proud parent of two very musical children at Merrill Middle School and a music educator, we chose DMPS for many reasons, but one of those reasons was exactly what you're doing. And so I just want to say that because I hear it all the time, and nothing makes me prouder when I hear that. And so congratulations to you, and thank you for your support in that initiative. As always, it's an honor when we can have opportunities for our students to be showcased. Central Campus is Iowa's premier regional academy, and we are great because of your support in our facilities and our equipment, our program offerings, and then supporting our exceptional educators. But what makes us even greater is our kids. And what you're going to hear from two students, and then we're going to close with Mr. Gadberry to talk about exactly that data and how we can expand further opportunities and engage all students, especially underrepresented groups in this field. But first, I want to introduce two exceptional students and one of many across our entire district that's engaged in such rigorous and relevant learning. First, they're both seniors. First one is Gino Cataldo. He's from Lincoln High School. Gino has taken computer-aided design currently. He's also in our senior capstone course, which is the new course, and that's the engineering and design and development. Gino is planning to finish up his AA degree in CAD with DMAC because he's gained so many credit hours in our programs, and so he's going to do that. But I have no doubt, he said, Mr. Pomstead, I want to work, save money. Employers out there watching this, both of these people are for hire, and they will be the finest workers you'll ever hire, because what you're going to hear tonight is truly something that I promise you, because of the history of this district, but the opportunities that you are providing for our kids, I promise you, we will have in the very near future, including Gino's patent, will be one of those things that you're going to hear about. Okay, and it will change the world, and it's going to be done by a DMPS kid. I have no doubt about that. And then we also have another senior, Yvonne San Ilas. Yvonne is a senior at Roosevelt High School. She's planning to attend Iowa State University, majoring in business and architectural design. Yvonne has taken also the CAD course here at Central Campus. The programs that we have here and the things that they're going to show you, you talk about rigorous. The applying problem solving, math, material science, art, engineering, drafting, manufacturing concepts, as well as improving computer-aided designs, and then those things that are intangible in our citizenship and employability rubric, communication skills, and effectively working as a team. And so I'm very proud to introduce these students to share their projects with you, and then also to have Mr. Gadberry talk about the full offerings and our plans to engage more and more students here in DMPS. First, let's start with Gino.
First, I'd like to say thank you for having me here, and Yvonne for presenting this before all of you. So the first thing is CAD class, computer-aided design drafting. That is one of the classes that I'm in. That's the one I am presenting to you right now. Next slide, if you could, please. I thought I was going to have that over here. So the Gadberry came to me one day in class. We were working on our re-engineering project, and we had a person from Winterset schools contact us and was wanting to know if had any students or faculty who would be wanting to try and make a key guard for an iPad for this little girl who has Down syndrome and speech disabilities. So it's harder for her she can't speak very well. So she uses these apps like Touch Chat to speak with people. And the problem with that is sometimes holding on to the iPad with one hand and you're touching the screen. So it's hard for the iPad to understand that you're also touching it for a square that you want to select. So with designing this thing we called the key guard, the whole purpose of this was to give just a little bit of a border to separate these blocks and squares so that it'd be easier for her to select what she wanted to go and say, so that it'd be easier to communicate. So she could go and collect the one she wants, and it's no big hassle. And then, let's see. So there is, on the slide right there, is the touch chat, as you can see in one of the images on the upper left corner. And the fine lines, as you can see in between the squares, creates a little bit of a problem. So that's what the whole thing was to create something that went on the exterior of the iPad to cover that up so that it'd be easier to select what she wanted to go and say. And then, all right, so here's some of the drawings of the design. Real simple, but also vigorous at the same time because you had to measure out and re-engineer all of this onto the computer, which isn't easy, but turns out really well once you do it correctly. So with the help of my excellent teacher here, Gadberry, I was able to do so, and this is part of the thing that I'd like to go and do with the rest of my life is drawing stuff up like this because it's fun. It's also it's helping people. I mean, what better can you do for the community besides helping people? And so, as you can see in some of these drawings, at the bottom right corner is a pull-out view of several different things, like the screen. Then there's the screen protector, and then the key guard, and then the thing that holds the key guard onto the iPad. All right, and then with the during that the reverse engineering, as Yvonne will show a little bit in depth more. Small parts, really intricate designs. Somebody had to make them somewhere, so now we're remaking them, which is pretty cool. These really small parts are just so cool, and then hopefully we can put all this together just like the real thing and actually have it work inside the computer and to be able to show and add on, hopefully, or make a significant change to that product. And that is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Hello, my name is Yvonne St. Elias. I'm a senior at Roosevelt High School. I do attend Gadberry's class, the computer-aided drafting and design. What we're working on in our class today is a reverse engineering project with the Vex Hex pieces. So it's pretty much just it's kind of like a Lego, a grown Lego. So we're taking these already molded plastic parts that are very small, and it's pretty hard to model correctly. And we're using these pieces, we're measuring them. So I'm actually going to pass them around. The point of this project is we're reverse engineer it. We're using dial calipers to actually measure them and take the measurements, diameters, dimensions of these little pieces, and we're actually recreating them. So with this, there's several pieces, several hundred, I believe, and so I'm collaborating in a class with several others and taking these pieces and recreating them on a computer. Let's see. These are actually the pieces that we've recreated. I've created 2 of these from here. So they actually, we model them to actually look like the piece. Once we're done all modeling them, we're actually going to take a significant piece out and create a new piece that would fit in there, that would actually work the whole project. So the whole point is to recreate, learn how those pieces were made, and make it better. That's what we're doing with this project. Let's see. And so we're actually working as a team with a bunch of other students. And it's good to work on our skills because I don't know what piece Susie is measuring or how she's making that. So it's a good class to actually speak with one another on what we're doing. And I like this class because, sorry, I think I moved on the presentation. I like this class because I'm going to be taking architecture up at Iowa State. And this class has actually opened up a lot of opportunities for me as well because we do take trips. And those trips have helped me know what's in the fields of or what DMAC offers, as well as we've gone to several other companies to see how these pieces are actually molded and how they reverse engineered this with other people. And I like it because I want to work on a team. I am a team player. So, and I want to thank Gadberry for being a great teacher, because he's opening up so many opportunities for me like this one. So I'm going to pass it to him. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for having us here and being able to show off a little bit. These students are truly what can happen when we give lots of opportunities and work well with our home high schools to get these kids into different career fields. As many of you know, most of the jobs in the future are going to be middle skill jobs where they don't need 4 years of college, but more than high school, or maybe more than 1 year. And that's what majority of the future jobs are going to be. And with Project Lead the Way classes and other career and technical classes, we can fulfill that need. And to help increase the communication between our home schools and us, we're working very hard and want to make better partnerships with them to get these kids here. And I can tell you, as a former at-risk kid myself, having teachers that know what's out there, having counselors that can advise us well and get us into those places does a better job of getting kids than what they see on social media or what they're going to see on YouTube. I always tell them, if I had someone or the possibilities that they have now, I may not be a teacher, I may be doing other things, but I wish I would have had the opportunities. And far too many students still don't know what we offer at Central Campus, or even some of the other classes they have in their home high schools. For example, I run into kids that are going to go to Iowa State in engineering, but they've never taken an engineering class at their home high school. So we still struggle to get the word out about what's available. And we have more room, we want more kids, and they're doing a great job, and they're going to go on and do great things. So thank you for creating the opportunities. We still need more opportunities. I hope when my son is ready for school that he gets plenty of opportunities. And it's also at the lower levels. There could be more opportunities that don't involve the primary use of a computer for kids. Project Lead the Way is a good example of that, but there are other hands-on learning activities that they could do, and that will help guide some of those kids into some of these fields that we just so desperately need. In fact, these kids with a 1 year or 2 year degree are going to be making more than me and maybe a lot of other people in the room. So, but thank you very much, and thank you, my students, and Mr. Pomvisai for letting us present to you. So, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Are we?
One more. Just one more.
Okay.
Yeah. For our continued response to data, performing arts, we're going to continue that, working on that program growth, especially staffing for vertical alignment to ensure students have a pipeline from elementary to middle school to those upper levels for opportunities to engage in the arts. For our visual arts, we're continuing to improve equity of access, and that's true of performing arts, especially in the elementary levels. When we look at bringing standards reference grading and having common outputs at the elementary level, it's really important that those students have common sets of inputs. And expanding advanced opportunities, looking at making sure that every comprehensive high school has an AP course offering in the visual arts. For turnaround arts, our response to our data is to really operationalize effective practices. It's difficult. It's not a kit in a box that we apply to our schools. That's one of the difficult things about being an innovator, is we are building the kit for other people. And so really operationalizing that work, honing in on those very best practices and sloughing off practices that aren't working, and then making sure we have all of that in our mind with an eye towards sustainability. So to wrap up tonight, I think one last piece to illustrate the work we're doing around the arts is a video from our cohort-wide residency with our partnership with the Des Moines Performing Arts that we worked on last year with our 5th and 6th graders on the North Side and The Lion King.
They've been experiencing drama techniques and how to focus their energies and their personalities to create a character that is both unique to them and relatable to them using animals.
We got the selection of character development. We do vocal exercises, so developing how our character's voice is. And then we also do motion exercises for how our character might walk.
It's like preparing us what they have to go through to be on the Lion King. And you don't just sit there and just listen and just watch them have fun. You get to do their activities.
Right now we are gonna listen to some music and we still have to be in our animal characters. I think it's gonna be really fun.
Now we're gonna do something fun.
They've been learning a lot about dance and the history of dance and some of the connections between the Lion King and some common themes that they will be representing through some choreographed dances.
We're dancing about Predator and Prey with Miss Valerie Williams. We've been working on shape, movement, size, direction.
I like the warm-up exercises that she does because it's very calming and it helps us relax our muscles and bones.
Normally each day we get to do subjects like math and reading, but when she comes, basically we get to learn about ballet and movement instead of reading and writing.
We have to use a lot of energy and we have to cooperate with each other.
So the 6th grade class has been working with our literacy teachers to explore the themes that are present in The Lion King and specifically working with the concept of they live in you or he lives in you to kind of develop those themes and create personal poems around that subject matter. The poems and the stories that the students are willing to open up and share has been really surprising and really deep and personal, and sharing lots of experiences and how these people taught them lessons on whom they want to be and how they want to be when they get older.
I was born from a teenage mom who taught and helped me grow.
When you died, I lost my pride, I lost my guide. You want me to do my best. When I am blind, you help me see. When I can see you, you let me follow the lead.
Always giving me the brighter side. She is always making me work hard.
Through our residency with the Lion King and Des Moines Performing Arts, they have been creating a mosaic piece based on the circle of life and the Lion King.
We're learning how different cultures come together.
Well, to me, it's special because I can do something that I really enjoy because I really enjoy art.
We're gonna hang it in the front of the building. I'll be able to come back and see what I've done in the past 2 years.
We worked as a team and I think it's amazing. Like, if we all put our minds together and we can make something pretty cool.
During this residency, they designed 4 different masks and then took their favorite, which then became their finalized mask.
Yeah, I've been using masks from cultures of Africa.
They're learning these lessons from these animals and, putting them into portraying them through masks, and that makes them self-reflect.
My elephant represented strong but friendly, because they're pretty kind and people ride on them.
I chose to make a tiger to be brave and to face its fears.
Once I'm done, it tells me I've done a lot of hard work. You're like working hard and you can see you're accomplishing something. I just enjoy doing that.
When they go to the show, they're not going to see just the human actors, and they're not just going to see just the animals that they're portraying, but almost this combination of the two.
They know now all the work that's put into each and every single mask that's on that stage. So just really taking the time to realize how much time and effort goes into a production like that.
I'm really excited for The Lion King and the whole 5th grade is going to see a lot of dances and a lot of the acting and the costumes that they have worked on for a really long time.
Being able to see a live production and to see one that carries so many elements of the arts is really impacting, and I'm not even sure that all the students know how much they'll enjoy it or how much they'll connect to it until they experience the arts.
Working with Des Moines Performing Arts has been really incredible for the staff and students. It's powerful to work with an organization that is able to provide that for students and doesn't hesitate to do what's best for students.
Time, we'd like to open it up for discussion.
Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate the student involvement and the level of detail in regards to the report. Ask for any questions from the board, just as I did the last time. And what I'm going to do on the next time is remind everyone that we have another monitoring report to follow, a board discussion, and an exempt session before the end of the evening. Ms. Langford.
What a cool opportunity for our students. You know, all of those, particularly all the kids that got to go to the Lion King, all of those experiences plant seeds. I know from my own experience in the DMPS district. So I'm so excited that we're providing those opportunities for our students. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to Gino and Yvonne. You guys, that was a stunning presentation. I was so impressed. I don't understand half of what you said, but I think the outcome of what you're doing is so cool. And Mr. Gadsberry, the fact that both of your students highlighted you as being a primary motivator and factor in what they're doing is, I think, a true testament to the work that you're doing. So thank you. I did have a question about Project Lead the Way. I know you mentioned talking about access because this is such a cool opportunity and it seems really exciting. So I'm wondering what do recruitment efforts look like currently across the district for that program? You said it's in all the comprehensive high schools currently, correct? Mm-hmm. So how are we recruiting?
Exceptional question, and there is a multi-pronged approach, but the most important is the collaboration between our teachers down to the comprehensive high schools, but extending even further at an earlier age. Right now we have a grand opportunity. One is exposure to junior high school age students using the new Naviance program and the career-based program, the data that we can glean from that. That came to us just this week, and right away we jumped on that opportunity. And so I'll give you a specific example. All students in DMPS now do this career interest inventory and for academic career planning as well as course planning. Mm-hmm. We can now reach out to them, and Mr. Gadberry took that data, has contacted those schools and said, hey, your student has interest in this, and we'd be honored to have an opportunity to visit with them, have them come to Central Campus, engage in our activities, and see it firsthand and experience it. Other opportunities for our students is really reaching beyond not just the curriculum that we have, but also experiential-based learning. So, for instance, summer opportunities, early engagement, camps, design universities, all those things that really offer a wide array of opportunities for our students to know what the opportunities exist. And then the marketing, the video piece, you'll start to see a mass marketing video. Our marketing team has been of 2 people, have been working really, really hard, but much appreciation to the district for their support. And so pushing out videos, pushing out these viral ads created by our students. We're also hired a professional videographer. It's endless, but most importantly, it's the personal contact. And then what Mr. Gadberry shared with you is really the professional collaboration with his colleagues.
Mm-hmm. I teach the computer-aided design program as well as the civil engineering class, or civil engineering architecture class here, and also the capstone course, which is new this year. And I also teach software design and gaming, which is new last year. And myself coordinating with the comprehensive school teachers, but even at the end of last week, I essentially robo-emailed parents in the Intro to Engineering Design course and then the Principal's Engineering course. And I got over 30 responses back in a very short time, and they still don't know that we're here. And so that's still an ongoing issue that we're really focusing on. But what seems to work the best in coordination with that are getting my other students in front of other students at their home high schools, as well as bringing and ensuring that we get all of the sophomores into our building here to take a look at the programs. And we run out of time to do that, and it does come into a time piece and or a time issue, and definitely more support is needed or help is needed with that. But that's what I'm doing on my end as far as a teacher, is kind of using the kids to get the word out and the projects and just make sure the parents know as well. So
Thank you.
I wanted to give also a compliment, a shout out to the new principal, Leslie Morris. You talk about mind adding, using the data. We are really digging deep into our student data of which students are underrepresented, okay, in these programs. And so we're micro-targeting those students and using that. And so she has, and I have worked together in our teams. We're going to continue to do that to expand opportunities for our students, because it should not be just limited to students who know about these programs, who have access. It is, when you look at potentially 2,500 students across the district involved, our capacity to serve students here at Central Campus is far greater than that. And so we commend Principal Morris as well as the other comprehensive high school principals, but we need to do it all the way down to the junior high school level. And so we will be working tirelessly with the district team to ensure equal access, equal opportunity, expand those opportunities for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, no, that's just encouraging to hear. I clearly, we know that our poor students and our African-American students and Latino students, really all of our students of color, are really underrepresented in the STEM fields. And if this is the direction that we're moving, then we need to be making sure that all of our students have access to the same opportunity and challenge. So I'm going to remember that statement, and I look forward to hearing about the program next year and where we're at. Thank you.
Any further comment, question?
And a couple.
Ms. Caldwell-Johnson?
Thank you. Good presentation. Appreciate it. I have 3 very quick questions, I think. So number 1, is there anything in particular that you can identify that's attributed to the growth in participation in the arts programs across the board? I mean, it's great to see that, and I'm just wondering, is there something special? What's the silver bullet?
Well, there's actually a couple things. One, we try to remove actual barriers and artificial barriers that are created for our students to be a part of a program. So a lot of those things can look like, can a student actually afford to be in a program? Does a student know that that program exists? And then also making sure that schools realize that this is an appropriate program for a student to be in and that they allow that access. So some of that comes down to scheduling, how you schedule kids, how you support those kids to be in the program, and then actually focusing on making sure that all students are recruited, not just any students. I know last year the Des Moines Public Schools Foundation donated a lot of instruments, and they came in, and those instruments really went out to kids, and they were in their hands literally. It was off the truck, and within 2 days they were all being used because we have so many students who are in need of those instruments. And one of the things I hear a lot is that kids who get something for free don't tend to go on in those programs. And what we're showing with the data in our district is that that's not true. Those kids who have access to those programs, they stay in, they get involved in after-school programming, and they continue on. And we're looking forward to seeing what those numbers look like as they move into the high school world as well. So
I can also say that sometimes beyond even, or before we even examine barriers, it's just making people aware. So Ryan and I work often to look at total program health, which is not something that principals often get a chance or even the scope to see. So sometimes, for instance, in that middle school visual arts data, in a lot of cases, it was just an opportunity for me to go and visit with a building leader and point out, like, what are some things that you and I could do to work through this? And just that moment of awareness was enough for us to kind of push the needle forward without having to do a lot of back-end work on barriers. So I think those are the two pieces, just the awareness and then the identifying and removing barriers.
And then finally, one of the things that we've done, and this was in the report, we talked about specializing staff. So making sure that staff are really specialized in the area and they're trained in the field in which they're teaching. And so that was a new thing. We had people teaching all different fields, even though they were certified to do it. However, they didn't have experience in that. And we actually have data that shows those programs without certifications, they stayed pretty stagnant. While those programs that were certified, they had the incredible growth that you see there. So having that, pushing the staff where we needed growth to those schools has really benefited all those programs.
That's good. Thank you. Yeah, I think we would all agree that access and equity of opportunity is at the core of being able to do what we need to do for all students. So I appreciate that. I had another question around specific examples where participation in this informs and supports increased academic achievement. So can you talk to that a little bit? Noelle, I know that's something probably you can speak to, but anybody?
Well, actually, these two are probably more equipped with the actual studies. I mean, I know that there's numerous studies out there to support the development of the arts and how it impacts positively student achievement, but I'll let you guys speak to any specific examples.
This is something that I actually love. I'm kind of a research nerd, and so I like doing all the brain scans. But one of my, like looking at the Journal of Neuroscience has tons on this. But one of the programs I like to point to is the Harmony Project out in LA. The Harmony Project actually went out with students and they gave them instruments and instrumental music lessons, and they only had a certain amount of money. So they could only afford to do that for a certain number of students. Well, a lot of more students wanted to be in the program than were able to. And these were very impoverished areas. They were areas that were very diverse. And what they did was they actually came in and they did brain scans of the people going into the programs, and they followed them all the way through a college level. And they noticed that their brains were actually changing as they were performing, as they were learning these programs. Or learning their instrument. And as they followed them through and they actually looked at career paths, they found that those students who were involved in those programs were actually more financially able to support themselves. They were getting higher paying jobs, they were getting steadier jobs, and they were staying in college. So if you look at the longevity of keeping kids in these programs, whether they stay in the arts or not, it's showing to be beneficial to kids from everywhere. So
We also have some local data to support that. Findlay, as our pilot school in turnaround arts, saw dramatic gains, not only in academics, but in parent engagement, average daily attendance. And we're just in the beginning of, since we're in year 2 of cohort 2, starting our data collection cycle on that. So I'll be anxious to share some of that data with you. One example is Findlay's Gallup poll data. They not only is it the academic, but also other indicators of school improvement and preparedness for school reform. And so we're seeing across the board indicators that having a deep and robust and strategic arts program makes a difference in all sorts of indicators of school success.
Mm-hmm. I know over time that we've, in this district, had some challenges, especially when we were in serious budget difficulty, where we had to, make some shifts and changes, especially in the areas of the arts. So I think what you've shared with us tonight demonstrates not only the importance of that, but how it yields greater outcomes for students overall. And you anticipated my third question, which was around trend data, especially in our turnaround art schools. So I'd be really interested in seeing some of that so that we can really begin to look at that model as it relates to ways that we support students, especially in some of our more difficult learning centers. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll be happy to pass on that local data and as it expands in all of our cohort schools.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions, comment? Ms. Anderson?
Yeah. I guess my question has to center around the KPIs and the procedure in developing them. And, I guess my question is, are we collectively determining these ahead of time? Or, I as you said, you took a stab at them, and I think the things that you're doing are wonderful. I just want to make sure that we're collaboratively working together. Yes.
I was just going to say on some of these reports, we turned it back to staff to come back with, because some of these are somewhat more difficult because it's not a hard number always. And I think they've come up with, some really strong informational or strong KPIs to bring to life our district goals, and because they are not the hard cut math, literacy, whatever. So I think how they've framed it has brought to life, I think, what we were trying to capture. I know when I first set out to put the ends together, it gives me a greater confidence that we are really truly supporting these programs and how they demonstrate to student achievement as we get more information.
And I was just speaking to the process of the KPIs and how, as a board, we collectively determine with the district, I guess. And maybe I'm not understanding completely.
Interpretation and KPIs belong to the administration, and then it's for the board to determine if they are acceptable interpretations and acceptable data to demonstrate the ends that we've asked them to measure. And then, so essentially this report and these KPIs give us a look backwards, and then as we vote on this report, then it would be important to, with an eye on the future, determine if these are the KPIs that we feel will continue to measure the ends going forward.
All right, thanks.
Good.
No.
Ms. Newcomb?
Oops, I had my mic on the whole time. Great job. Love the presentations, fantastic. I know you have the response to data and kind of going with the KPIs. It'd be really great if in the next reporting period to kind of see the responsive data, the growth. Like this is a beginning point, particularly when it comes to like the equity, and just, I don't know, using that as an example to move forward with, I think would be really great, so.
So if these are adequate KPIs, then they'll be the same KPIs every year. So we'll have a comparison from year to year.
Well, I know particularly when we say, here's the response to the data, if we're measuring the response, then we can really see what's happening. Yeah.
Exactly.
I do want to commend the district for taking a stab at and looking at expectations for next year. I think it's worth noting at this point in time that, and I'm happy to do it again, this is the first time that we've done a process like this. We're actually nearing the end of the gauntlet of about 6 months, 6 or 7 months worth of these.
I hadn't noticed.
I had black hair at the beginning of this whole process.
So did I.
But what we're doing for the first time on both sides, and so we're learning this process. You're learning this process. I think based on board discussion, before we start the cycle again. I mean, there's 2 more monitoring reports before the end of this academic year, but really before we start this process again, I think we'll have a lot to look at, refocus on specifically the quantity and specificity of our monitoring reports and what the board wishes to do. But to that point about putting look ahead data, that's I think tremendously valuable, and we appreciate having that. And I would echo what a few other folks said in terms of the comprehensiveness of these KPIs. So thank you for the presentation. Any further comment or question?
Could I just make one quick comment?
Dr. Ahart?
To Terry's point, in tight budget times in the past, the arts have been cut pretty dramatically, and one of the things that we made a very intentional decision about about 4 years ago. I still remember very clearly the interview process when we selected Ryan and Sarah to fill these roles. We're not apologizing for putting more emphasis on the arts. We know that the students that we serve, first and foremost, need to be valued as individuals. They need an avenue to express themselves, to find their passion, to figure out who they are and how they want to be. And the best way for that to happen is in the arts. And it's also an excellent way to help children understand the cultures of other children with whom they go to school. Clearly, they learn collaboration. They learn creativity, all these things that regardless of what they want to pursue. So I think it's important that we're not trying to create a bunch of professional musicians and painters. That's not the goal. We're trying to really develop round individuals, the whole child. And I also want to salute the efforts of Ryan and Sarah in taking seriously this role. This is not just a nice to have, this is a necessary to have, and we put very high expectations on Sarah and Ryan, just as we do on all of our curriculum coordinators. We have a massive responsibility to develop the whole child in every single school. And they've done, they've undersold the work that they've done over the last few years in removing barriers. We have been looking at our systems and our structures and what is getting in the way, even to the point, Sarah made an excellent point, sitting down with the principal and helping them look at their data a different way to make sure that we're not missing opportunities. I've heard, I hear occasionally, in remarks in the media or on the street that we continue to cut arts. That just isn't true. We have more staff teaching our students in the arts, and we've been much more, to Ryan's point, we've been, with the cooperation of DMEA, putting our people in the place where they can be most effective. So it's not just that you have music certification. If you specialize in instrumental music, let's put you in a place where you can utilize that and not force you to be teaching vocal music where you may not have the passion or the expertise or the comfort level to really connect with the kids and give them that opportunity. We have amazing students, and we have to make sure that we're providing each of them an opportunity to demonstrate where their talent lies, and then provide the pathways that they also spoke to develop that all the way through so they can reach their potential wherever that potential lies. So I just want that we do try to take it very seriously, and we do take seriously as important as math and science and reading are, and they're very important. I would argue that the arts are no less important. And when you talk about that research that Ryan referenced, when they're learning the visual arts and communicating that way, or the performing arts, they're really developing another language in their head. And what you see happening neurologically has very little difference than learning a second spoken language. You're creating more pathways, and you're creating more avenues for our students to work their minds creatively. So it's a great work, and it's been quite a journey the last 3 or 4 years, and the problems that are being created in terms of resources are wonderful problems to have, because we can overcome those every time, as long as we're seeing growth in the opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. We have a motion and a second, so I'll ask for the vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you so much. Our next item on our agenda is item F2, Monitoring Report 4.1.3, Student Achievement. Students have world awareness. May I please have a motion and a second to approve item F2?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Newcomb, second by Ms. Bozen. We have a presentation, and I will let our presenters find their mics.
Good evening, board. Thank you again for having us. I'm incredibly honored and humbled for 2 reasons. Number one, to be able to present to you a monitoring report like the one you just heard that has never been presented before, but also that you would save the best for last. So thank you so much, and I am truly grateful and appreciative.
We all know the real reason that Matt's presentation is second is because he speaks more quickly.
So, Before I introduce our special guests, our students, I would like to introduce to you two individuals that are among Des Moines' finest, and to help me present this Monterey report tonight. To my left is Keisha Barnes, our district coordinator for IB and World Languages, and to my right is Allison Vukovic, our district coordinator for Community Partnerships. And without further ado, I would like to introduce to you two lovely students from East High School, Lillian and Montasia, who are as equally talented as they are beautiful. Ladies?
Hello, my name is Montasia Carter, as he said. I'm a senior at East, and I'm going to do a poem for you guys that I came up with as a result of a prompt from Movement 515. Okay, so in our little thing in there is like, if you like something you hear, you can snap and stuff, you know, yeah, if you feel something. Okay, let me center myself. I know thunderstorms. It's not even spring, and they happen almost daily. Booming shakes me out of my sleep, only for me to realize that it is just my father's yelling, followed by the pouring of my mother's tears. I could never get used to that sound. If these walls could talk, they would apologize for not being soundproof. I know love doesn't linger in the shadows of unbearing insecurities, which you often mirror on family. I know mirrors can turn you into monsters, and I know that monsters don't peek at you from closets or hides under your bed, but it sleeps next to your mother. It was the reason she lay awake many nights. I know colors. My mother's face and arms etch purples and blacks in my memory. Her body used as a canvas, his fist always the paintbrush, a masterpiece that she hid behind sunglasses, makeup, and lengthy clothes. I knew that she was embarrassed. I know 911 got tired of repetitive phone calls from the Brown and Tan house up the street from the park. It was the only way I could describe the house. I know that I was far too young to make those decisions, my father's freedom or my mother's safety. I know that I do not like the smell of weed. It reminds me of the reality you can't face, but smoke always clears, and then you have to take a look at the damage. I know the saying men don't cry is the reason you're so angry, and I know that anger is a trait that black men carry, or at least in my family it has been passed down like an heirloom, never skipping a generation. I know that your anger comes from fear, comes from regret and unachieved dreams. I know that dreams can become nightmares as quick as you can wake up from them. I know that maybe this poem is getting a little too deep and that I could cut down some stanzas because people don't need to know what's going on in my home unless it is being fixed. I know my mother, she has become a handyman. She always seems to fix problems around the house that my father has created. I know that you get sick of home, but I wonder if you ever get homesick, wonder if you ever miss the man you used to be or spend time thinking about the happiness we once had. I know that I am comfortable with your seizures. It is the only time you allow us to help you, the only time that you are truly vulnerable with me. And I know that you love Mom, that you regret letting her go. You know you can't get her back. She broke her back carrying your insecurities. Dad, multiple sclerosis isn't the only thing that is eating Mom's spine. It is the burden of loving you, and I know that love should never be a burden. I know Mom's eyes lost her smile. Sometimes I fear losing her. I've already lost one parent to lost dreams. I know that you're fighting demons I cannot see. They have locked your heart in the closet and replaced it with your skeleton's cage. Just smile, and we know that furlough is a rare gift. I know that I should have spit this poem like I am preparing for war because you will be ready to retaliate. But Daddy, I know that you love me. I just doubt that you love yourself. I know that I said I hate you, but I did not mean it. Hate is a strong word, but love is too. I keep our good memories in the back of my mind like a screenshot for when I needed to be reminded on why I still love you. Daddy, I know that through this all, I still love you. Thank you.
Wow. Beautiful.
Hi, my name is Lillian Alvisares. My piece is about immigration. Our topic during the class was immigration, and I actually had a really hard time trying to figure out how I would write it, but my teacher, Mr. Rollins, challenged me to write it in the piece, or in the eyes of an immigrant. And then I was like, well, I'm not an immigrant. I don't know how I do that. But then thinking about it, I was like, wow, both of my parents are immigrants, and I know my dad's story. I don't know my mom's story. I'm going to try to talk to my mom. And so it was pretty interesting trying to talk to her and figure out a way to put her story out there. But I got it, and this is the piece that I'm going to present to you. It's my mom's story. So, okay. When I was 13, I couldn't run to my parents when I was scared. I couldn't run to them when I was awakened in the middle of the night, not because I had bad dreams, but because the ceiling was right there, and I'm pretty sure there's a grenade pin in my hair. No. I couldn't run to anyone because they all ran to me. And we were hiding under my bed until we were sure that the sons of gunfires were only echoes in our head. Who would be the brave one this time? And spare the skin on their feet to sweep the shards of glass and pretend, and so we can go on pretending that on the next day that our country had a little bit of class. I was only 13. When gunfire separates the bond between you and your friends, you know that's when your childhood comes to an end. When war is at the back door of your house screaming, "Let me in," you know that's when you gotta get the hell out. Leave your friends, your belongings, and your family was the ransom that war left me with night after night. I was only 13. I kissed my parents' graves goodbye for the last time, and I was on my way to the country with the bright city lights. The hours that I spent in the wooden basket of a bicycle was nothing compared to the nights I spent walking in the vast desert. I was only 13. When the days were scorching and the coyote was on top of the other girls, I didn't understand why they would cry afterward. I was only 13. I didn't understand what sex was, and I didn't understand that I could be the next one, but I was really lucky. I was lucky that I traveled with a man who loved me like my father did, and he promised the coyote, if you touch her, it would be your own slaughter. I was only 13 when I was caught crossing the river that separates Mexico and the United States. I ran and got away, but got caught at the airport trying to get to LA. I was only 13 when I went to jail. No walls or stalls, cots for bed. The only things that gave me rest are my dreams, because that's where my family could come and greet me. I was only 13 when my wings were cut off, and I was told I was dumb because I didn't speak the language. Yeah, I didn't speak the language, but little did they know that I was top 3 in my country, and math and science are universal languages that anyone can speak, even a dirty immigrant like me. I was only 13 when I left everything I ever knew behind. So then and again, don't ask me why I need to prove that I deserve to be here, and don't tell me to go back, because honestly, would you?
Thank you. That was profound. You sure you wanted to do that at the front end of the presentation, Matt?
Yeah, I should have rethought that. So we felt it fitting to obviously include the performance of these two lovely young ladies, because I think upon initial look of this policy of 4.1.3 of students developing and possessing a world awareness, I think initially one can get a glossy view of what that means. Because to be aware of the world, I think we sometimes think about what's taking place in a distant land across the country or across seas. And I think what you just observed and witnessed with these two young ladies, that in Des Moines Public Schools, our strength is our diversity, and our global and world awareness is seen through the eyes of our kids each and every day when they walk out their doors and when they enter our classrooms and our hallways. Seeing the world through their eyes is much different. And I think that's what this policy represents. And so I'm, again, excited to tackle this and to begin to think about indicators and KPIs about what this world awareness actually means. And as you can see, it means a great deal to our students. It means a great deal to our staff, and I know it means a great deal to our community and to you. Because at its core, it represents the values of this district and this community, which is genuinely looking at individuals and cultures and valuing what they bring to the table and absolutely utilizing that to better ourselves and our own self-reflections about what we're experiencing and how we can make the lives of someone else better. It values compassion, and it absolutely values diversity. And that's what this policy is about. So as we interpreted the policies set before us, and thank you again for putting these ends together, We interpret this policy that we are able to provide learning opportunities for students to develop a global perspective, cultural diversity, and an attitude of interdependence within the classroom and outside the classroom. The key performance indicators that we felt most accurately reflected the interpretation of this policy include the number of world languages, including the enrollment and the offerings, the grade distributions of global studies in grades 6 and 7, the grade distribution of world history, grade 9, the grade distribution and enrollment of AP Human Geography, our Silver Cord program and the number of students participating and the hours they served, and our community partnerships, the number of students served in our partnerships. I'm going to turn it over to Keisha.
Thanks, Matt. Here you can see world language, the world language courses that are offered, grades in our secondary schools, grades 6 through 12. I'd also like to add that we offer 7 different world language courses at that level, and then at the elementary level, we offer Spanish or Mandarin for 4 elementaries. Our goal for the 2016-2017 school year in 612 world language courses is 7,000. Here you can see currently we're a bit shy of that goal. The Global Studies courses in 6th and 7th grade curriculum addresses the first of the 4 board ends relating to the topic of world awareness. World history gives students an in-depth look at historical themes from a global perspective. And here you can see the grade distribution by subgroup. AP Human Geography, here you have a graphic again of the grade distribution, but also I wanted to note that this course aligns with the goals of the National Geography Standards, and the driving question for this course is, how does where you live affect how you live? And again, a grade distribution. Participation in the Silver Cord allows students an opportunity to become engaged in community life by donating their time, sweat, and passion to better the community through their service. And here are highlighted groups of students involved at the high school level with Silver Cord. Partnerships are created to ensure students' personal and academic success and to increase their access to diverse experiences. And here we have some data about community partners and students involved directly with those community partners.
So now, how are we responding to this data? In social studies curriculum and resources at the elementary level, we are shifting our focus of teaching subjects in isolation to obviously moving subjects in, teaching subjects in topics so that they're cross-curricular. At the middle school level, a task force has been assembled to work on a new vision of social studies in middle schools in order to meet the new standards that are set before us. And in high school, we are partnering with College Board and we.org as we are conducting a pilot program for AP Human Geography, which involves a greater emphasis on service learning to help close the gap between classroom and the community and continuing to make that connection. Regarding our community partnerships and the response to that data, we will continue to build strong partnerships with community organizations and businesses that surround our schools. This is very similar to what you've heard already tonight in the Boys and Girls Club, as well as Polk County Board of Supervisors, but it also includes programs such as Embark, Oak Ridge Academy, Latino Forum, Alexito. All of these programs play a pivotal role in developing our students' sense of world awareness about how they see the world and how we can partner with our community to engage them in civic activities, but also continue to develop and model the idea that we want our students and we want to model behavior that we see, that we have to be compassionate about those that we are serving. Another area, of course, in continuing to improve data systems and structures to inform partners to best meet the needs of our students. In the audience tonight is Vanessa Howe, who is our community partnership liaison with United Way. And that's a long title. The short title is she's a godsend to Des Moines Public Schools, because she is transforming our data systems with our partnerships so that they are intentional around student outcomes, so that we have a shared accountability that we're all involved in this work with our students. And we're also continuing to involve community events like I'll Make Me a World celebration, Juneteenth, and the Latino Heritage Festival. Regarding cultural proficiency, we continue to push the envelope about cultural proficiency, again, not being a box that you check off, but it is a journey, it is a self-reflection, it's an inside-out approach to how not only we see ourselves, but how we see ourselves in relation to those around us, and how do we develop that genuine interest and care and compassion for everyone that crosses our path, so that we can begin to value all that folks bring to the table for our students in our community. We will continue to provide an online module for all certified staff. We've got a partnership with Drake University to develop 2 cultural proficiency courses developed and designed specifically for DMPS teachers in the alternative teaching program. We've also got collaboration with the DMPS Urban Leadership Program regarding the inclusion of student leadership and district-wide cultural proficiency training, very similar to what you heard tonight from our 2 students from East High School. Our training has to include more student leadership and student voices and how they see the world in order for us to truly be able to engage them in classrooms and to learn from their experiences. We learn as much from them, if not more, than they do for us most times. And so what I would like for you to see, I know sometimes the question comes up is, and I'm looking at this video and I'm not sure it's the right one. This ought to be interesting. Did it just go off? It is. Okay. Oh, it's on me. So I tell you what, Tim, let's go ahead and play this video, and maybe I missed the first part of it. And if it's not, we'll stop it. But if it is, we're going to keep it going, because I want you to see what it looks like in a building when cultural proficiency manifests itself to change the outcomes for kids.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna turn into a gangster, you're gonna do drugs, you're gonna, get in a gang and shoot, and they just said, be careful.
I heard that Kent Meridian was a scary school to be at. I heard that it was ghetto as well, gang problems and drug problems and behavior problems, and it's actually quite the opposite.
Moved from assistant principal to principal, I knew what we were missing, and the piece we were missing was the relationship and the environment where everyone was accepting of one another.
Dr. Behringer came in and he really has created a family here at KM.
Coming KM is like leaving home and coming right to home. I walk in the morning, the office ladies, good morning, how was your night, what are you doing this weekend? It's really like, it's a family.
And I think we really turned that corner that first and second year of my principalship, in that it's more than just teaching the content. We can teach the content, but if they're not engaged and they don't respect you and there's that relationship isn't there, then there's that disconnect.
To fit in at Kent Meridian, you have to care about who you share the space with. And so the conversations I had with administrators and teachers when I first got here, it was really clear that they had built a culture of care and respect, and that anybody who was hired was expected to participate in that culture.
The Multicultural Assembly, walking in at 6:30 a.m. and setting up and watching the kids coming in to congregate and go to their seats, it was like it was like a rainbow filled with M&Ms and Skittles and Twizzlers and all the other candies in the world just mixed up in one version, but they're all candy.
See a kid from Nepal talking to a kid from Mexico and a kid from Burma, and they're just talking, and there doesn't seem to necessarily be any concept that, oh, we're from three vastly disparate parts of the world, we speak three different languages, we have three different religions, we dress differently at home.
And sometimes differences can set people apart. But at Kent Meridian High School, growing up, becoming a sophomore, junior, and senior, it's like those differences are what sets us together.
So what do we do to get kids more engaged in school? We started focus groups with kids, with our Hispanic Latino populations, our African American population, our Asian Pacific Islander population, and to figure out what's working, what's not working. What do you need from teachers to help you learn? Okay, and trying to go through that route and then bringing that information back from those focus groups, giving it to our teachers. Oh, okay, well, I didn't know that. A lot of cultural competency work and really kind of getting to know the whole child.
A lot of our teachers here have that attitude that content is important. Academics are super important. It's why we're here. But above that, we're here for kids. And so it's all about relationship and personalization. I really believe that you can't teach well to a kid you don't know well.
If a student is struggling, we don't necessarily start with a push, we just start with a conversation about, so what's going on?
They don't just talk to you, they're connecting to you.
You know, under her wing, and she's like, I'm gonna guide you through all of this, you're gonna be president, and all this, and this is my freshman year, and I'm coming in just wanting to go to school. She's like, you're gonna do all of this.
84.6% for on-time graduation rate, and a 96.4% for extended graduation rate is something that actually we're being recognized with the Washington State Achievement Award, and maybe hovering around the 60th percentiles, and this year we were in the mid-80s, 85, 86% for both our African American students and our Hispanic students who took the reading and writing HISP last year.
I feel like I've received the best education that could be possible in Washington State. Because they care so much and that they're willing to do what they can to make this school the best it can be is what is actually making this change.
Thank you, Tim. If that was the correct video, if it was not, I was going to have to do that interpretive dance myself, and I was prepared to do so. I know. So what I would like to conclude our presentation with before we open up to questions is just to read you something, a quick quote from Sonia Nieto. She says, any student who emerges into our culturally diverse society speaking only one language and with a monocultural perspective of the world can legitimately be considered educationally ill-prepared. It is our goal, it is our quest, it is our task to not live up to that. Our job is to make sure our students are prepared, to make sure that they have a global awareness and a world awareness that transcends not only what the world says that our students should be looking at across, states and seas and countries, but to look at what our students bring to the table each and every day, because the diversity that Des Moines Public Schools and the city of Des Moines possesses is the strength of our community. And we've got to begin to value that and teach that to our kids, and also begin to let people know that the right thing to do is to be compassionate. The right thing to do is to have a heart of service. Those are values that we need to teach in our schools. Questions?
Board, Ms. Langford, please.
Well, of course, first I have to shout out the ladies who came and got vulnerable with us in this space. We don't take that lightly to get in front of a group of very stately looking people at 8. Stately looking, good clarification. We're not necessarily very stately.
We'll even take that.
But this is intimidating, right? I'm about to say exactly, this is not typically where you're performing. So thank you so much, and that just made my night. So I think we're starting to change the culture, even how we do our board meetings. So thank you for inviting them to come. One of the questions that or one of the statements that stuck out to me from that last video is, you can't teach a kid you don't know. And one of the things that I just couldn't help but reflect on is, as we've gotten a lot of our monitoring reports back, and we all know these numbers, right? We know that our Black students, we know that our Latino students, we know that our English language learners are not performing at the same rates, and we see that time and time again demonstrated in our monitoring reports. So what that, I can't help but think that part of that, though I don't have any empirical evidence before me to state that, though I have some personal experiences, is a disconnect between some of our staff not knowing our students. I see some head nods back there. Thank you for the affirmation. And we keep talking about cultural proficiency, like we want to see the lens. That's one of the main focuses that we're looking at. So I just want to make that statement that I think that there's publicly, there's a disconnect, right, between some of our teachers not knowing our students. And
Can I add something to that? Because I agree with that.
I'm sure, yes, Matt.
Because also, it begins with knowing yourself, right? Knowing your values, your dispositions, your biases, and recognizing those things.
Yes.
So that you can be vulnerable with the students that you teach or with the staff that you are leading.
Absolutely.
And it begins there, because that's that inside-out approach.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's so encouraging to know that that's where your mind space is at. I just had a question around ethnic studies, because it looks like, I wanted to bring it up. There's a lot of evidence and research that shows the impact that ethnic studies courses have on students' outcomes. And, love the global studies, obviously the social studies classes that we're doing. But I'm just wondering if the district has thought about maybe incorporating some of those spaces. I know Urban Leadership does some different movements around, like the Black Power movement and the LGBTQ rights movement in that space. But I'm just wondering if that might be something that we look at incorporating, if it isn't already.
I would agree. I think we've traditionally brought the ethics curriculum, if you will, to programming. And I don't think that to this point we have approached it in terms of a course, but it's definitely something that I think we could look at for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, I spoke with the superintendent from another district on the West Coast that actually has an ethnic studies course. They have two of them. One is focuses on more of the Asian Pacific Islander population, because that's what they have more, and they do it in partnership with the university. So that is something I have a note of, that is something that we want to pursue when we have the opportunity. But yeah, absolutely. And frankly, it seems like something that we could incorporate. Something definitely where we could have college level courses for our kids, but do capacity building throughout, whether it's as a strand in our social studies curriculum or, yeah.
I had a question.
Ms. Anderson?
You talked about the world languages, and I agree. I think that they're very important aspect to the education of our children and the whole global look. And I just think that the more we look globally, the more our kids will be prepared. But my question is, how are we going to sustain the world language classes, or are we doing that? Are we cutting those classes? Are we adding? Where are we at, I guess? And maybe if you don't have that data, that information, I can always get it later. I just wondered if we're actually providing that throughout the district.
I don't have that specific data with me, but I can get it.
Yeah, okay.
Sure.
I just wondered, like, if, and you said like 4 elementary schools had Spanish and Mandarin, I guess.
Yes, 4 of our elementaries have Spanish or Mandarin, yes. And in the 2017-2018 school year, with the addition of more, as soon as they become an officially accredited IB school, we'll have 5.
Okay, I was just wondering if you had plans to expand it. That's all.
Yeah, and to that point, we just added Arabic. Was it 2 years ago?
That's good.
As a language that's available district-wide, and we continue. I know Keisha and I have talked about what other languages make sense, and then trying to cross that hurdle of how do we find teachers that the state will allow us to hire to teach those languages.
Yeah.
For accreditation purposes. So we continue to explore that, and I'm absolutely certain we'll have the capacity when we're ready to add another language, but our intent is fully to expand that. And part of that discussion, you heard Adi in the last presentation mention Naviance, which we're not in our second full year yet of implementing that system. Part of the purpose of that program is to be more planful, help our students and their parents be more planful starting at 7th grade and mapping out their goals for the rest of their high school career so that they're fully prepared for whatever it is that they want to pursue after that. And one of the really nice features of that program is as students narrow down more closely where it is they want to go afterwards, what skills will they need, and have that help inform what they take. So for instance, if there's certain colleges that they want to attend, they can find out real granularly exactly what will put them in the best position to be accepted and to succeed there. And a lot of that is second language, as you might imagine. So having putting families in a better position with better information to make more informed choices, I think will also help us grow the number of students who are pursuing a second language.
And then you talked a lot about cultural competency, and I do think that I agree with Deanna and what the video said. You really need to know your students. How are you providing training to teachers, I guess, in this area, and like how often, or what is kind of the plan?
We're finalizing the modules to roll out, but before we even go down that road, the first thing is working with our school leadership teams around this inside-out approach and what this looks like. Because as we know, what we can't do is send things out to teachers without fully preparing our school leadership teams to support them when they wrestle with some of the content and some of the dialogue that inevitably should take place, right? Because this is the right work, and that's why we know it's challenging, and that's why we know it's right. Because it's people becoming aware of who they are. And that's sometimes a difficult conversation to have. And so wrestling with those topics is a good thing. So we have to prepare our leaders in order to be able to facilitate those conversations as we roll those out. The other idea of that too is, again, looking and being proactive in our approach in the alternative teacher program and providing training to those teachers as they are entering into the school district. Because we have that opportunity now when they're doing that.
So kind of being proactive.
Yes, ma'am.
like in that way.
Another opportunity that I'll also throw out is we've got 8 phenomenal future principals in our principal pipeline cohort, and that entire curriculum is built around the cultural proficiency and that continuum and about that self-awareness in order to lead buildings differently.
Yeah, the other thing I guess I would add too is as we look at refining our hiring process, particularly for teachers and leaders, is actually building that in, and we're actually actively doing research on that with Battelle for Kids and Parent Research, so that we're actually hiring for that disposition and that aptitude. You know, we can't obviously content, as one of the gentlemen in the video said, content knowledge is very important, right? Rarely do we have an issue with teachers not knowing content, but knowing content isn't the first priority. It's knowing the students and having that willingness and that desire to know who you're in the classroom with and who they are and how you can help them succeed. So, having a little bit of a different, perhaps a little bit different look for us as we continue to build our teacher workforce. And on that note, I just want to share too, because it seems timely enough, our 3D program that we've been doing with Drake and DMAC, where we've recruited minority employees of our district who are not teachers but who would like to become teachers. Our first 2 3D students actually will be student teaching with us this spring, and so we hope to have them on board, helping us diversify our staff and better connect with our kids next fall.
It's great. Ms. Langford.
I also had a quick question. In the number of students enrolled in world languages by subgroup, what I was really excited to actually see was, excuse me, I popped a minute at the wrong time, that our special education students actually are very represented well in our world language numbers. And I'm just wondering if that's like a specific strategy targeted towards that population, or is that just what the data's shown us?
No, we don't have a specific strategy targeting students. I think that's a happy circumstance. But I do know that there are other populations of students that we need to target and make sure that they're aware of the importance, looking at scheduling, just making sure, raising awareness about the benefits, as well as the engagement piece too in the classes.
Interesting, okay. Thank you.
And I guess I just have one more
Ms. Anderson?
comment. I think that it sounds like you have a really good plan in place, especially in the kind of educating the new administrators and teachers. And I hope that they feel like they have the time to do that. Like somehow there's time created in order for them to get to know their students. You know, I know as a teacher, like you have so much time to teach something, and maybe you feel like, I don't know, it's just a comment, like that hopefully there's some kind of a permission to like have this time to get to know your student. I mean, I know it sounds silly, but yeah.
No, I think that your point is well taken, and the message that has been sent and will continue to be sent that this is not something that we will make time for. This is what we will do. This is the priority. This is this is what we lead with.
Good. Yeah.
Ms. Langford?
I'm sorry, since we're here, and this is clearly something that I think a lot of us care so deeply about, what I think was also really remarkable about this particular school that you highlighted is that their rates of success in academic achievement among some of their most underrepresented groups was really high. And they spoke specifically and intentionally, right, about creating a culture within their environments that was very focused on cultural proficiency. And so I'm looking at, I'm really thankful that you asked the question about how we're going about doing that, because I'm like, okay, a video. I'm wondering what this school has done intentionally within a smaller environment, and I'm sure you've done most of the research on it, so you may be aware. Are we taking the steps to replicate that on a district level for our students here? And it may or may not be applicable, but I just don't want to move on without saying, like, their success rates were awesome. So what are we doing on our district level to really make that a focus and a priority? Because it seems like it's working.
Absolutely, and what I would answer to that question is that we're taking those steps by beginning with our leadership teams and really facilitating those conversations there. But the other thing too is that, and this is why we show this video, because I believe it mimics and mirrors our message that we're sending here in Des Moines, is that we're not doing this so that we can raise proficiency scores. We're doing this because it's the right thing to do, because we value the cultures and diversity in our kids, in our community, and we're doing it because we're compassionate and we care for others. That's why we're doing it. We realize that it will raise achievement scores, but that's not why we're doing it. We're doing it because it's right. I just got you woke me up a little bit. Thank you for that question, because I think that's the right question to be asking. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Newcomb?
I know you had mentioned that you were going to basically top down. Is there a way to incorporate, particularly since our students know best where they've come from, some conversations from the student level up as well?
Perfect question. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. And one of the next steps is to take students, like you heard tonight, and utilize some of those leadership programs that are doing this work, that experience this work, and that lead this work to be voices and help training and facilitating this conversation at the district and at the building level. So plans for those action steps have begun.
Yeah. Our Youth Advisory Council? Yes. You're coming. Yes. So that is what that group's going to start doing. So they're working with Christopher and Emily to create a youth and community guide to cultural proficiency. And then our hope is to get that in front of teachers as well.
comment.
Ms. Caldwell-Johnson.
And it really goes to the key performance indicators. I think especially around this notion of world awareness and how we really embed it as a core value that we have as a district, and as we focus on it for the long term, trying to figure out ways that we can really identify data points at the elementary level. We're heavy on the middle and high school stuff that we have identified here, but I think the better we are at identifying key places at the elementary level where we can embed this work, the easier it gets as we get to, the upper grade levels. So I would just push back a little bit on the KPIs that may be digging a little deeper on identifying something that is much more meaningful than just the language opportunities at the elementary level would be important. And I know in your response, you talked a little bit about the curriculum around social studies, but again, just pushing back a little bit there, just feeling like if we can
Completely
do it
agree.
early,
Yep.
it creates that pathway.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, board. Thank you, presenters. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Whoops, if I may just make one quick comment.
Yes, sir.
The graduate ends that were established, I don't know how many years ago, it was before I got to the district. I'm proud of the board for sticking with those and revisiting those with the community and giving us the opportunity to report out on those. These are absolutely the right conversations to have, and they're some of the most difficult ones because they're not looked at outside of the district. These are things that the state doesn't measure or seem to, have investment in, nor at the federal level. It's work that we're certainly going to be doing because we know it's the right thing to do for kids. And I'm just very appreciative that the board leadership realizes that this is important for our kids, regardless of whatever state or federal policies we need to comply with say. Because it's hugely important, and just because it's not measured at the state or federal level doesn't mean it's not the right thing for our kids. So thanks for continuing to lift that up and continue to forge ahead, even though there aren't very many models for how to look at this outside of what you're doing here.
Thank you. We will move on to item F4, which is an update on the board's work. As a refresher for folks, the board created a work plan to actually cover up until this meeting, but we did not meet all of our deadlines. But I'm happy to share that today we will report on work from each item that was a part of our work plan. So I'm going to turn a lot of the conversation over to the individuals that chaired ad hoc committees. Specifically, and I'll just start from the top, Natasha. All right, Natasha was leading on an effort to research effective community engagement strategies, specifically to create a document with no fewer than 5 relevant community engagement best practices with sources and share it with the board. There is an attachment on the on this item, and I'll let Natasha walk us through that. Two attachments, I believe, right? Which one do you want us to?
Well, one's kind of just a supporting document of research. So, I guess our committee has met. We believe that there's a lot of conversation still that is required here, and not only did I put forth, the activities, but also some policies, potential for discussion as well, that I think fall under community engagement and how it impacts the practices if it's within our policy itself. So I hope you guys had an opportunity to review it real quickly and give some input, because a lot of it is input driven.
And so this was posted as in our agenda a week ago. So hopefully folks have worked through this, and I'll welcome comments. But do you want to explain each item?
Do you guys want me to briefly explain them? Sarah? Okay. The first one is a policy proposal that I had borrowed from another school board. This one is directly for the superintendent, Should you guys want me to read it? You guys got that? Got it? Okay. I know in this particular policy piece, there's a lot of room for discussion, especially like the 45 days prior, as well as we left out defining, but felt that it was important to define some of the language that is in there. Following that is everything that's specific to this board. That's why there's a line there, and which one, the first one, again, is another policy proposal for us to engage more with the community. And then following that is some actual action items that we can do as a board with the supporting studies on the other side provided. So I guess I'm going to highlight the one that comes directly after that, the Harding's Middle School Parent University. As a parent of a Harding student, I receive these emails, and once a month they have a parent university, and it touches on different things. Unfortunately, it's the first Tuesday of the month, so I'm always busy. But I think it's fantastic, and they've done a wonderful job communicating out to the parents what's going on. So I thought that would be a great example for a parent university, and since they've kind of been working through that this year. I guess you guys can jump in at any point. It's thoughts.
This one?
I would just offer that there's a missing piece that I was responsible for, but unfortunately I was traveling unexpectedly last week, and so I'm totally out of integrity with my colleagues, but I'm going to acknowledge that up front. But there is a key piece of this work that we had identified as being specific to our English language learners and our refugee community around engagement. And I have some notes that I was going to share with Natasha that would sort of be included in this. But that was sort of the other piece of the work that we talked about. Mm-hmm. So, sort of a set of strategies that would be for your, more traditional families and parents, and then a very specific set of strategies that would be focused on English language learners and refugee families. So that's sort of the other piece of this.
Yeah, and I did try to capture some of that in spirit in the policy for the very first one for us with communicate proactively in the community by identifying tools that will communicate. I should probably redraft that. To all parents that fit their needs, particularly parents that are limited in English, providing workshops. I mean, it gets a little more specific in the policy. It does get specific in the sense that it says providing workshops and information tailored to their specific needs. Depends how you view it.
Yeah, just the parent.
Yeah.
I have a question, then I'll give it to Ms. Langford. So can you kind of lay out which ones of these the board would lead on? Because I think that's really kind of the question here, and really where we were going to is, where's the board gonna push forward, and what actions are we gonna engage in?
We didn't prioritize. I can tell you my opinion, though.
Share what you think is important.
I think there are some in here. I just wanted to lift those out.
Yeah, there's no
I would like you
priority
to,
in here.
No, but I'm just saying because some of these are actions of the administration, some of these are actions of the board. Respect to our policies. I'm really thoughtful about what board initiatives we can lead on. So.
Yep, knowing that this was a discussion opportunity and not an action.
Yep.
I took advantage of that. So that's why I put these in there. I personally feel the best way to have action is to have supporting policy. So
the policy on the board shall create.
I feel very strong about both policies.
Okay.
That's my priority.
Okay, I'll give it to Deanna.
Sorry for those of you who are at home. I was just going to say, if we are going to tackle the proposed policy at hand tonight, I had some thoughts on it, or discuss it.
I think, this is worth discussion. You're more than welcome to get into this. the direction per our policies is to send policy changes to our policy subcommittee, have them work through them, and then present those to the full board, which is what I intend to do. I think I talked about that last meeting in March. Have the full board have a discussion about our policy manual, but we should absolutely start on this, and I'm fully open to having these discussions, but just so folks are clear about how we as a board have kind of laid this out. So please go.
Okay. Just an initial thought. I definitely like the spirit behind the communication. You know, in our policy manual, we talk a lot about our responsibility to our owners and how we communicate with our parents and our families and our students about the happenings that are going on in the district. And I do think specifically, I know our work is from a very broad policy level, but our decisions impact, ultimately we're doing this for our students and our families and our kids. And I think that there's some space, particularly when changes are happening on a school level. I think about, you know, the recent changes that happened at one of our comprehensive high schools. And I think that there's space for communication to come out from the district and ahead of time to be able to solicit parents and students' feelings about changes that are going to specifically affect them. So I actually really appreciate the spirit behind this policy in advance, being in front of communication versus being on the back end of that, and really having opportunities to engage with our families and students that are going to be affected by major changes in our district, rather than on the front end, rather than kind of sometimes dealing with the backlash that comes after proposed change.
I was kind of a geek about all of this with our policies that have been proposed. So I've got this little worksheet, and that actually I became aware of it fairly recently, and thought it was a good exercise. It was really a good exercise for me to go through personally. And going through this worksheet, and I can share what I did on this as well. So and I'll let y'all read it later, but just to kind of quickly go through how I put this together. Parent engagement on school matters. I listed what the scenario as a suggested policy, with the assumption that board members want to ensure an open line of communication between parents and stakeholders in the district on significant changes to educational programming in their child's school. The exercise has you go through all of the policies that might be relevant that we already have. So I've listed out what I found to be relative executive limitations, relevant board management delegation policy, relevant governance process policy. Then you go through the exercise of figuring out if, based on our current policy, if the CEO or superintendent is compliant, and if compliant, then give an explanation. In this case, what I said is certain decisions are unpopular with some people, but past action has been consistent with latitude of authority set out in board policy that we already have. And then to go on to say what action, if any, should board or board members take. First, it would be to determine unmet need, and this is kind of how I interpret it all. And then to recognize that the superintendent, while required to advise board of material changes, is empowered to make decisions regarding means to achieve student expectations, as well as a balanced budget. The board is obligated to protect decisions made by the superintendent that are consistent with board policy, no matter how unpopular. If the board knows that a decision may cause public or parent dissent, then it's up to the board to determine if current policy reflects values of ownership. Okay, so if we determine that, then what amendments might you suggest? So what I was thinking is that it's unrealistic that every matter within a school should be an opportunity for parent or public engagement, so we caution a broad invitation. However, if there's concern for ample time and communication regarding significant issues, which there looks like there still needs to be definition of what significant is, right? Probably done collaboratively with the superintendent. Then maybe we should increase specificity of our management limitation 2.1, treatment of students and parents. And then I put an example there, which is not super in-depth thought out, but that's, but that might be a place if there is indeed a determination that there is an unmet need, that might be a place to structure some of those things in. So those were my thoughts on the policy.
Oh, I appreciate you taking the time and going through this. I mean, one thing I would point out is that it's intended to be broader than parents and students, it's stakeholders. So it kind of stretches beyond that.
Sure, and then maybe there's more places to.
Thank you, that's a lot of work.
Maybe I didn't realize, I thought we were just having a discussion. I didn't realize we were going to prepare like a document or.
I did that. That was my choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I didn't know that it was like a homework assignment. I think it's great that you did that, but.
That was simply how I prepared myself for this discussion. It wasn't a homework item.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm sharing it with the board as a potential tool for future use as we go through policy.
I have a quick question, just kind of jumping back, because I know I was given 5 tasks to come up with for the board to engage with the community.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that opportunity to come up with that. And I know this policy stuff is somewhat out of that scope, and you brought up the policy procedures for the 8th, but Deanna's subcommittee was specifically policy. So I guess I'm a little.
Yeah, some are.
Yeah.
Sure. So are you asking, am I inconsistent in my
Yes.
application? I would say not, though I will be open to, the opinion and judgment of my board colleagues. The intention of both Deanna's review of 1.6.5A and Heather's review, and not just them, but their subcommittee's review of conflict of interest, was to appoint individual subcommittees to focus on issues that had been addressed as concerns in prior board meetings. It was never meant to jump the process that we've been going through, but rather to start movement on these items. I think my role as board chair is to make sure that we stay within our policy and our expectations.
I guess, I don't know, I guess I feel a little lost because I feel like these things that fell under the community engagement I've brought up a number of times as well.
Yeah, and I don't think that anything that I'm saying or doing here is meant to, or I don't want it to be taken as trying to block you or anything from that. I honestly think these are the stuff that you bring up is stuff that we should be talking about and changes we should be making.
No, I wasn't taking it as blocking. It just, since you had pointed out the policy issue, I kind of wanted to point out, we're going to be discussing a policy here in a moment. So I was just.
We are,
Yep.
with no action
Yep.
intended.
With both of our subcommittees and.
What is this? Okay. A little light. Here.
Have we not moved in that long?
Not enough. Part of our wellness plan. Keep moving or you're in the dark.
Oh, look at the room. Hi.
There are still people here.
Thanks, Deanna, for the interpretive dance there.
I know most of you all missed it.
I know Deanna has her hand up. Connie had her hand up before, so I'm going to go to Connie and then Deanna. And I'll keep an eye out for folks.
I thought.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to.
I thought Deanna
you were
was going to.
Deanna.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, I think some of the policies that you had put in do tie, but I think when we're talking about community effective engagement, because I was served on it too, some of the things that we brought up were similar, just to, like the graduation walk, continue with that, but even talking about what we talked at our work session was the going door to door on getting volunteers to, and also then handing out information. So as a method of some way for the board to really get engaged and continue that theme of the graduation walk and to bring relevance to an issue, which is that third grade reading. It could be a way to go door to door within our own community, asking for volunteers to help tutor, mentor kids for reading. And so just to go back to some of the strategies that not only there's policy, but there's also some strategies. And also then putting together, like the parent universities and things like that. Those things I think would be to replicate some of that. If it's working well for Harding, is it some other schools that could do? So that's another, way that maybe we can engage more parents and to get more involved. So those are, and then the other was the turn community supporters into leaders and advocates, similar to what the legislative committee is, and how do we, as a board, get more people engaged in that. So those are some of the strategies. If you're looking for the strategies, I think that we can impact the district and really all that work go towards student achievement and try to move the needle faster for us with the help of the community.
Ms. Langford?
Well, I certainly appreciate, I think it all falls on, you were given a pretty big task as a team to come up to talk about effective strategies to engage our community. And so, and there's a lot here, and we've had a lot that's been presented to us, particularly around this policy. If it needs to go through the proper channel and committee, I think that that's fair. I think that Cindy brought up some really good points in her worksheet. I also think that there's a lot, and I was trying to scramble last minute to find some of them of policies that also talk about how we work with our communicate to our community and our responsibilities to our ownership as well. And so I think that there's a place for discussion about the policy, particularly as we've been talking about out of our last board strategic meeting together, how we get to shape and influence what our district does through our policies. And so though this may not be the time to do it, I think that we should have the time to dig into this. If it's not tonight, at another point in the near future, absolutely. I think it's definitely warranted of discussion.
I appreciate that. I agree. Absolutely. Ms. Newcomb?
Yeah. I think I'm on the committee. The policy committee?
Yes, you are.
Then can I submit it to you for the policy committee?
Yeah, well, anyone can, but yes.
Yep, then, okay. I'm going to submit it to you in a few moments, so then we can get that ball rolling.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and thank you for this work. I think this is, the board, I believe after a January 5th meeting, spent extra time in a work session identifying goals, and the goal was about community engagement, and this is pushing us in the direction of making a meaningful increase in student achievement through community engagement. So this is really important stuff for us. Anything else on community engagement? Ms. Langford?
I know this is our first time, as a board taking on this work. So I'm just wondering when the next time that we'll discuss all of this will be.
That's a conversation I hope to have tomorrow morning at our agenda planning with my vice chair and our superintendent as early as March 8th. But we have to make some decisions about how we want to go about that. Very important question. Thank you.
Thanks for your work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will turn it over to, Heather can report rather quickly on conflict of interest work.
Yes, I met with Deanna and Natasha. We read over the policies on conflict of interest and really didn't find anything that we felt needed amended or changed in any way, so it was kind of easy. So yeah, I don't know if anyone else saw anything that they would change or, but
great.
Kind of some crickets now.
Ms. Langford, you led some work on board staff and engagement. You want to walk us through that, which is policy 1.6.5A review.
For those of you who have stuck around with us in the audience and are going to be watching, this far into the meeting at home. The board has expressed some different viewpoints around a specific policy in our manual. It's policy 1.65A, and it deals with the board's communication with DMPS staff. And so a subcommittee was formed to look at the policy and see if there were some places that we wanted to rework, and consulting our superintendent, who also gave his thoughts and feedback on the policy. Tonight's our initial discussion around if there are spaces to amend this policy. So the original policy reads, board members will respect the chain of command and refrain from initiating discussion, keyword initiating, of board matters or matters on the board meeting agenda with any DMPS staff other than the superintendent, except as directed by the superintendent or when the individual is designated as the contact on the meeting agenda. There's a committee summary. Natasha provided a rough skeleton. So thank you very much for an updated policy regarding how our board communicates with the Des Moines Public School employees and staff. And for those of you who are able to look at the document, her skeleton's outlined in black. And then Rob and I provided comments. Rob provided comments in green, and I provided my comments in purple. Superintendent Ahart, I did not get your comments and feedback into this original document, but would love to hear, the thoughts that you shared with us or with me over the phone at the table. The most contention, Natasha broke down the policy into 3 pieces, A, B, and C. A deals with direct communication to the school board. B deals with school board members' communication with district employees through school visits. And C deals with communication with individual board members, how we communicate with staff. The most contention, I would say, would be in Part B. I'm trying to figure out how to best communicate this to folks who aren't present or can't look at the document. The original thing that Natasha communicated, or the original policy that she wrote, was school board members may visit schools from time to time and meet with employees in the schools to discuss matters of interest or concern to employees. Such visits and meetings should be scheduled in advance through the principal of the school. Rob provided some feedback. He said, is it okay if I share the feedback?
Go for it.
Rob said, I do not agree with this provision. There are a few departures from 1.8, specifically setting up visits through the principal rather than the superintendent, which conflicts with the board's current practice of not directly adding work to district employees that are not our direct reports. Well, I guess actually I can back up. Natasha, do you want to go back before we go there and give like any feedback into what your original policy though was, why you felt that way, what your reasoning behind that was?
Is it on? No. No. It had a delay. Okay. Sorry about that. For me, a lot of the policy is allowing discretion and the ability for a board member to do what's best, as well as representing their constituents and having that trust relationship. I know we all agree that it's important to be able to have conversations as well as respect the chain of command and allow the superintendent to, have information to help him do his job, but not everything has to go up to the superintendent, and it's pretty set out clear that we don't have discretion in that matter, and I'm pretty sure we can handle that.
Okay.
So that's my train of thought.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add before I go? Because I'm going to give everybody. Go for it. Keep going. Okay. Rob stated, I do not agree with this provision. There are a few departures from 1.8 specifically, setting up visits to the principal rather than the superintendent, which conflicts with the board's current practice of not directly adding work to district employees that are not our direct reports. I also don't think that we need to reference going to the school to discuss matters of interest or concern to employees. I agree that those discussions are permitted and can provide useful information. I just don't think that we need to break that reason out and not mention other reasons for visiting a school. I would be fine with keeping B and referencing 1.8 at that point. I could be fine with amending 1.8, but I'd like to come to consensus on the 2 points I raise. Anything else you'd like to?
No, I mean, well, so my points are really separate. One is we talk about respecting the chain of command. So if we're going to respect the chain of command, it makes sense to stay consistent with that policy throughout and that language throughout, which is why I said we should continue setting that through the superintendent, or if not, then we should change that policy altogether. And that's just a conversation we need to have, which is why I say, we should come to consensus on those last 2 points. And then the second thing is more of a policy wonkish type of thing of not over limiting what we do or what we say in policy. There's a lot of reasons to visit schools. There's sometimes unintended consequences of over specifying why we would visit a school, which is kind of what I did on the one up above of, trying to keep it consistent with our language and leave it somewhat open. So those are the 2 changes that I had there.
Perfect. Awesome. And then, thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
The final piece was obviously my input. And I said I'd like to propose the following amendment to be: school board directors may visit schools to hold town hall meetings or focus groups for DMPS employees to hear directly from staff as needed to inform board directors in their decision-making. Employees must willingly self-select to participate in these meetings. The superintendent must be notified prior to 2 weeks, or 2 weeks prior, excuse me, I made a typo. Must be notified 2 weeks prior to the meeting, and coordination for the events must be in collaboration between the board and the superintendent or members of the administration. My thoughts behind this are, I think it's really important for us to have feedback from our teachers and our staff. I think we have a couple ways of communication, how we get the information about how our staff and faculty are being treated. We have the external monitoring report that's done by Gallup, which I think is very helpful. We have the contact that's laid out in our monitoring report about the treatment of staff and faculty. And then we also have the superintendent's feedback on how he believes that's happening. But I do think it's really important for us to be able to hear directly, or at least have an avenue to be able to hear directly from employees and staff in the district about what's happening. I also think, though, that we want it to be representative. And I think all of us have connections to different staff and employees throughout the district that we have relationships with, and it may be really easy to sometimes give more credence or voices, either intentionally or unintentionally, to certain voices that we have relationships with, and then those voices kind of we take to shape the thoughts of everyone in the district, and that's just not representative either. So the idea of having a town hall space on issues as needed, where staff can self-select into those opportunities, takes some of the bias out, right, and allows us to hear directly from staff, which I think is really important in a space that's representative around issues that are important. So I think it's the methods that we have in place are helpful. We need the data, we need the context that we're hearing, but I think that there's definitely a space that's really important for us to be able to hear directly from employees as well. So that was my thoughts on that. There were really minor changes made to A, but it was really small issues of language, and I think this is available on the agenda so folks can see that at home, or anybody can go and look on the website and actually check out the document for yourself. And then Natasha did make an additional proposal to not only look at 1.65A, but also look at 1.65B. Which reads, if board members are contacted by DMPS staff without the permission of the superintendent, board members will follow the board policy. Board member communications with owners. Rob gave some Actually, I feel like before we go there, Superintendent Ahart, did you have would you like to share your thoughts on that first piece of the policy that we submitted and we're talking about?
Well, yeah, actually, I don't have much of an issue with much of what is proposed, with the exception that I do want to shield building level staff as much as possible from, having an additional burden, So I would appreciate being kept in the loop when a board member wants to visit a building. It doesn't really matter too much why, but sometimes I can in a way that's less intimidating to a building person, say, you know what, this is going on in the building that day. Anyway, we could do it a different day or whatever, and not put them on the spot. I think what the changes that you suggested, Deanna, about just that there's open communication. You know, I think it's healthy that the board takes advantage of opportunities to talk directly with staff. But the more openness there can be about it and transparency about it, the better. Because you're right, certain individuals or groups will gravitate toward certain board members, you know, with certain information and certain limited information on certain issues. And so it's just important that there's some fullness to the information that board members are making their decisions on. So I like that change. And then I think Rob brings up a good point too, because I'm sort of kind of have that wonkishness too. If we specify the exact reason why the visit to the school is going to take place, then really everything you say after that is limited to that particular instance, and then it creates additional unneeded gray area. So I think not making it as exclusive as this language is proposed would be probably better.
Thank you, Tom. Do we want to open it up for board discussion?
Absolutely. You're in charge. You run the show.
All right. Well, let's open it up for board discussion. Natasha, then Connie?
Okay, I just want to quickly, respond to the thought that I could understand that school board members are really intimidating going into the school, knowing that we individually can influence, even though we have zero power, versus the knowledge knowing that the superintendent is 100% always knowing when a board member is doing something, talking to someone that actually has the authority over that person. It's a balancing of authorities. In my mind, my boss knows absolutely everything I'm doing. If I talk to my boss's boss, he's gonna know because he's being told that. And so when we have the power balance, I really think it throws it really off kilter. That's just my thought if I were an employee in that situation. Mm-hmm. So just putting that out there.
Mm-hmm. Connie?
I guess I look at it too. We already have the policy about going to the stores and nothing. I have never really felt that it precludes you to get information from staff or anyone. We have public forum opportunities. We have engagement at activities. So to me, I've never felt that people couldn't come to me or bring issues. I do believe, though, that we need the open setting where we all hear the same thing at the same time. If we are wanting to have input from staff on issues, because I think that sometimes it can get one thing said here, one thing said there, and I think so having it all together would be much better. And I think that, quite honestly, we really only have one employee that we are that's our one employee. I'm not saying we can't get input, but I think we have to be very careful when we go down as to how you hold somebody accountable if we're hearing from everybody else all around us. And I'm not saying he's the only word, but I think that's why we have the monitoring reports and things like that. So I think there is a chain of command that was set up. I think most organizations have a chain of command. And I think if there's a major issue, I think the board needs to take it upon themselves to make sure people have gone through somewhat of a proper chain of command, because that's how organizations run. To be effective when you have this many employees, this big of organization, that I think we do have to have some semblance of order. And there is nothing that precludes any of us from talking to employees or staff or whatever. I do think that when we hear something, if there is an issue, it does go back to your superintendent. We met with, some of us met. I did respond back on some of the issues I heard. But I think it's incumbent upon us that if we are going to have a meeting in the schools, if there's an issue brought up, this is a person that can change it. So I think having that chain of command is important.
I think allowing the freedom for the board members to visit the schools, obviously we can, and we're going to be respectful and let the principal and the superintendent know that we're coming. But to limit it to one topic seems a little restrictive. Because maybe, so then if you're going there for one purpose, but then someone asks you another question, is then my job to say I can't answer that? I mean, or, I have no opinion, or I guess I don't know for sure how I feel about that.
Terry.
Well, I was just going to offer that, I guess I'm going to sort of take us back to why we feel like we need to have a change in the policy. And maybe the premise for why we believe we need to have a change in the policy is because maybe we don't believe that we're getting the full story. In other words, there's always sort of the other part of the story that maybe we don't believe we're either hearing or understanding as part of a larger presentation. So I think the question is, if that's really sort of why we feel like we need to revisit this, what is the most appropriate approach to making sure we have balanced information upon which to make decisions? Because that's sort of what I feel like I'm hearing. So if the notion is feeling like we need to have more balanced information in terms of decision-making, what's the best path to get us there? Is the best path to open up schools for us to go in and talk to people? I don't know. Is the best path to have sort of a counterpoint white paper from other constituencies when we are being asked to weigh in on an issue when we don't believe we're getting all of the information or we're not hearing all parts of the story? I don't know what the answer to the question is, but I don't know that changing the policy around school visitation is the thing that gets us what we want. I think we have to be clear about what we want and what we think we're missing. And once we're more clear about that, maybe we can figure out what the fix is. Because I feel like we're sort of all over the place, and I feel like until we have clarity around what it is we need to have, then it's hard to figure out what the policy change should be. So that's what I would offer.
It's a good thought.
Connie and then Natasha.
I was just going to say, I would agree with Terry, because I think any time you change a policy, then we better understand clearly, especially to your point, Terry, why are we changing it? Is it just a change? What is underneath it that we have to totally upheave a policy? Because it should be intentional and it should be impactful to the board, and it should move, at the end results, make us more effective in what we do. So if it's some barrier that we think that's there that really isn't there, then we need to have that thorough discussion, which I think this little sheet that Cindy found kind of helps it makes you answer the questions.
Can I go ahead and try and answer that for me? One, it feels like I don't have discretion, but ultimately it comes down to trust. And I really feel that we have a lot of improvement up and down the district to really develop that, and having open conversations, flowing conversations, agreements and disagreements, great, but actually having fewer blocks from having those conversations will help that process. We may not like what we hear, but that's part of building a trusting relationship. And so for me, ultimately, it comes down to our district needs trust. And if we can't talk to each other, we're never going to be able to get to that point where we can trust each other either. So that's the premise for this.
Thank you. Rob and then Cindy.
So, first of all, well-moderated discussion, Deanna.
Thank you, Rob.
Couple thoughts. One, the role I'm trying to play in this discussion is making sure that we are staying consistent with our policies as drafted, and if not, then making sure we have a thoughtful discussion about how to change them. I think that's exactly what we're having right now, and I really think that's worthwhile, and I think a lot of valuable perspectives have been raised. Two, I want to remind folks that we have a policy 3.37BC, page 41 of our policy manual, that already explicitly talks about direct board inspection. Specifically, it says the board will acquire monitoring data by one of three methods, and the third method is direct board inspection, which a designated member or members of the board assess compliance with the appropriate policy criteria. Perhaps we're not using that enough. Perhaps we need to be 3.37
We have direct inspection.
BC. We have that. I kind of piggybacking off of what Terry said, maybe we need to better define what the issue is so we can figure out what the problem is, because we have this right here, and we have opportunities to visit schools and talk to staff already. So, you know, what are we missing, and how do we change the policies to get there? Because we've got some stuff that gives us avenues to get staff feedback. So that's my contribution.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm probably not going to say a whole lot different, other than I did go through the exercise again. I'm not going to pass it out because it would probably be different if I were to do it again, now understanding where the policy was coming from. But I do think it is important to go through the exercise of looking at what we do already have in existence, like Rob said, and also make sure that we're not creating policy that conflicts with what we have already said, which is that we have designated the superintendent as our official link with employees of the organization, and the superintendent is responsible for organizational performance in meeting our ends. And that's not to say that we should not be communicating with staff, getting feedback, all of those other things, but we also do need to remember what we've said and what we've designated as means and ends work in our policy, and make sure that we're not crossing those lines and graying those areas. I will agree with Rob on the use of the direct inspection. I think that needs to be, though, also very carefully and thoughtfully approached as well. And it might be what's needed to get at what it is that we think we're not getting at once we figure out what it is that we're not getting at. I do think the exercise of carefully reviewing the policy that we have is also important in the entire process.
Yeah, real quick just on process. Knowing that it's 9:21 right now, we have, I think, one more piece of this item left to do, and then some very important work to do afterwards. You have a list of folks that have already raised their hands. Will there be any objection if we stop this conversation for the moment after everyone you've identified? Okay. You're on again.
Yeah. Let's try again. So I appreciate what you had to say, Terry, in the sense of what the underlying issue is. And for me, when I look at this, it's about how we get the information we need, right? And we're talking a lot about what our policies say. What's a little discouraging to me, frankly, is that we just came out of a board session where we talked about if we feel like there are changes to be made, then how we address it is through policy. And so if some of us feel like through our policies, right, that we do want to change them to address some aspect of what our function is, then that's what we're here to do, right? And so I hear you, and like, what do we have? We don't want it to contradict, but I think the focus on like, this is what it is, and we have to.
That's not where I was.
Okay.
That's what
Yeah, and I'm talking more just like a spirit that I'm hearing in the sense of like, I totally believe that we shouldn't be contradicting what's going on in here. For me, the thought, it's not about power dynamics. It's not about, to me, it's about getting the most balanced information we can get to make good decisions for our kids, point blank, right? Mm-hmm. And I know we have monitoring reports, which are super helpful. I'm so thankful for the data. Once again, I'm really thankful for the opportunity to be able to talk to staff and students on an informal basis as an individual board member. But I'm thinking more about, I keep going back to the monitoring report on treatment of faculty and staff. It's just another perspective and another lens, in my opinion, for us to get information that's valuable, not recognizing that Tom is the superintendent, right? I'm not, my input, and town halls, may or may not be the way to do that. It's not about trying to make a decision or exert some sort of power authority over staff. That's not in my space to do. It's solely coming from the space of gathering information to make informed decisions and utilizing all the avenues that we have in order to make those decisions well. And I think that there is space. We have a lot of, sometimes we, in our seats, we're here to serve all of our students, but I feel like there's sometimes a lot of invisible barriers that go up where we don't actually get to hear directly from folks. And like when we have these students come in, how does that not change and influence the decisions that we make and the context that we're making those decisions in? We're all like, oh, we love hearing from our students. I just think that there's space for that to happen at moments, representatively and fairly with our staff as well.
Awesome. Oh, who?
It was you, and then.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry. Real fast, I know you cited the 3.3, the superintendent accountability. This is a much broader topic, I think. AHART's doing a fantastic job. The idea isn't to go scouting for issues at all, so it's about our students. Each one of us are elected officials, and we have a duty to those that we are representing, and that does include the people that are serving our students directly, the teachers and the staff. And so I think washing our hands of it so easily with some of these, I know, okay, maybe that was a little strong. I'll give it a little strong. Putting up some barriers from us communicating effectively does a disservice to those that we're supposed to be serving. That's my opinion and thoughts.
Okay.
But I do want to follow up because I feel like
I was
need to.
I'm going to defer to board chair solely because he did say cutting off after Natasha.
Oh,
I did, and I want to
how
stay
do you feel
with.
about that now?
I want to stay within integrity on this, and this is going to be a longer conversation and something that we really need to work through. So, and we've got.
Different conversation.
Around what the outcome is and what the policy.
Offer that.
Great. I'm going to move to
Board development.
board development. Connie Boson.
Okay, we put together a calendar on board development from February starting, last month, and then going through the end of the year, and then put together an election year, kind of what would happen on an election year, because there's more training and things that would go on for the board. So we already had our first retreat, which was February 6th. We have in March, so just to give people an example, for the next few months, roll the board and budgeting workshops, and what is our role again, and I don't know, we're working on maybe studying some of those. And then in April was talking about setting goals and effective student governance for student achievement, and that would be where we're setting goals. And tentatively, if people want to put on their calendar, we just kind of have a date of April 15th and possibly 16th, because it's not going to be an easy process.
I'm out of town.
You're out of town? So anyway, we'll send out some dates and see what people are available, because part of the conversation has been about what are the goals. We have the superintendent's goals, so what is the board and district goals together with the superintendent? How do we work it all together? So plan on a long one on that one, and then as you can read through the calendar. But it's really to set up a mechanism that we have almost every month some type of training, retreat, work sessions that we can improve our ability as board members. So again, I won't belabor what we have in here. If you have any questions on it, we'll be glad to entertain that. Heather and Cindy and I worked on that. And then we had some other, at the very end, some other develop activity calendar for board activities, so we all have an idea what's going on. Put together a list of books or articles and kind of put it in the library out or wherever on board docs that board members could go to if you wanted to find, if you see a good article on something, you could get it posted, and then you could say, hey, out on the board docs is this, or I read a book, it was a great informational. So just have a reference source So Heather had that idea, which I think is valuable too. So if you want to read about Marzano, go in and read about it. The book is there. So those are some of the different kinds of things we put together along with the schedule.
Any thoughts from the board on that work?
Yeah, I wasn't intending to make a bunch of extra work for board members. I just was trying to think of different ways to kind of learn more about what the district maybe was initiating, and that's just like up to each board member, I guess, if they want to take advantage of that.
Thank you for your work on this. This is important, and I appreciate the detail and the long-term thought on this. Legislative Education Advocacy Committee, Cindy.
Sure. We had our third meeting on Sunday, right? Third. And we have a fourth one coming up this Sunday, 1 o'clock in this room. This last meeting, we changed our focus to the save dollars, to the statewide penny issue. And the group really worked well around that, and divided out into a few work groups, one to recruit more members to the committee itself, one kind of a communication and messaging work group, and then the third lobby day planning work group. So we're going to be looking to have a lobby day sometime in March, looking at a Wednesday early out so that we can get...
March 23rd, possibly.
Possibly, but don't put that in stone yet. Possibly get students there on an early out day as well. And I think we're going to be getting a Facebook page up here shortly, but after that meeting on Sunday, there were some parents that really took charge of those various work groups and are going to start moving things themselves, which was kind of the intent. So I feel really good about it. And this Sunday, we intend to have John from Policy Works on hand to help with some advocacy issues and answer some questions that the group might have about that.
I have a comment. I think it's been really great, and I've been attending. My question is it beyond the scope of the board to kind of, it's hard because I feel like some in the policy manual and stuff, and what we've talked about earlier, when you said we were going to maybe engage students, and I mean, is that something that we should be doing? I mean, I think they should be involved.
Like engaging students to be part of this committee and to do some of the advocacy. I mean, and that was kind of the intent of the group. And I think for anybody here to get out the messaging out to their networks and to students they know would be great, and get more kids, especially around that lobby day. I mean, even if they can't attend committee meetings or do some of the other things, I think that there are ways that they can be involved and should be.
So what I'm thinking is I can walk into Roosevelt and go and ask several students. I mean, you see how it's kind of conflicting about kind of what we were talking about earlier. I mean, do we need to let Mr. Ahart know that we're, going to try and recruit students? I mean, and maybe we are. I don't know. I think.
I would suggest if the board wants to do something like that, and I'm not discouraging that at all, that it's very transparent to the parents. Who's making the ask,
that's all
what time they're asking of kids, so that it's completely voluntary. We had quite a level of engagement from a handful of our buildings last year, and there were several questions raised, really from one of the buildings in particular, that there was, even though parents initiated it and funded it, most of it, who led the students through the creation of the signs, who paid for the transportation, those sorts of things, which we had good answers for, but it's just something to be wary of, because we don't want to compromise our efforts by having legislators or others second guess who's paying for what, and they're also, I think it's important that that everybody is freely participating, you know, so we don't have a parent saying, well, I felt like my student had to go along because everybody else was, and I really didn't want them to, and you shouldn't tell my student how to think or how to vote, and all, you know, all those things are, I think, just things to be considerate of when making those decisions. It can get a little complicated quickly. Absolutely the right thing to do, however.
Well, that's why I think it's kind of confusing, I guess, because in one aspect, you're being told you can't visit with parents or contact students or unless, but then this is really good work, you know, so I'm a little.
No, I think it's absolutely appropriate to contact parents and students, just that you know, I think that's part of the power of this committee, is if parents on the ground level are engaged and they're getting families and kids engaged, that's actually different from board members doing it themselves.
Right. And that's the way it's been.
Because you guys are
is
now elected, and
empowering
now
the
you're
parents
identified
to-
as representatives of the district. If members of the public who are not elected officials are doing advocacy, there's a very important distinction there.
We're just the ones running the committee, though, so that's the part, you know what I mean? So it's not like it came from a parent. But
Right, no, I'm just saying that it's important to keep those lines clear when action's being taken to engage our students in particular.
Okay.
Anything else on the legislative committee? Okay, well, we're good on this item. We'll move to items of privilege, chair's report. I only want to take the opportunity to let folks that are watching this know about NEA's Read Across America, Building a Nation of Readers event at Merle Hay Mall on March 2nd from 5 to 7 p.m. There'll be cookies, activities, a Dr. Seuss character costume contest.
Totally entering.
Yeah, well, what are you going as?
I don't know. I just saw the flyer today.
This is a great event. There's opportunities to read to kids, free books and prizes. Again, March 2nd, 5 to 7 p.m., part of a national NEA Read Across America that DMEA is putting together at Merle Hay Mall, March 2nd, 5 to 7 p.m. Urge people to go out and attend. And that's it for my chair's report.
I just want to remind people, I know Sarah brought this up earlier, but Thursday night at Capitol Square, thank you. I don't know why I can never think of that, but at Cap Square, we will have our district art show. Truly, there you will see phenomenal stuff. Obviously, I haven't seen this year's work yet, but we have more and more kids participating, and there's just some really incredible work on display. That'll be the formal event is on Thursday evening, but the art will remain on display for quite some time, which is another great reason to have it at that location, is we can show off that work for a little bit longer. The other thing I would say is also starting Thursday night is the state wrestling meet, and we have, I believe it's 9 wrestlers, I think. I should check that number for sure, but I think we have 9 that qualified for state from around the district. So if you're looking for something to do, Wells Fargo Arena, follow the results, and the tournament concludes on Sunday, so hopefully we have some wrestling on Sunday. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson.
I wanted to, I was able to stop by the district science fair last week, and it was just really well organized. I've been to every one, so I know I can tell from the beginning to the progression to where you're at now. And it's clear that progressed to something amazing, I think. And the high school projects, I remember when there weren't any high school projects, so it's really neat to see the level of engagement, the judges, the organization of that. And I want to give, and I'm forgetting his name right now. Adam, a shout out. He did a really good job organizing that event. So
Pass that along,
Yep.
yeah. We have some amazing teachers and amazing students. Knocks me out.
I would have to echo what Heather said. It was you'd listen to these kids and
I
their
know.
their whole analogy and what they put together. It's wow.
Yeah.
There's some very talented kids.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Great. All right. Well, with that, we will adjourn. Thank you all.